This planetary exploration reveals a world where reality outstrips imagination. Crossing each boundary unveils unique narratives, while encountering each tradition tests the limits of logical understanding. Wife carrying is a recognized competitive sport in Finland, not a joke, but a formal event with a defined course, obstacles, and official judging. Its emergence dates back to the 1990s, yet its roots are connected to semi-legendary bands of robbers active in Finnish forests during the 19th century. Tradition holds that their leader, Hirkkonen, trained his men in the arts of food theft, evasion, and the carrying of women. Modern competitors, of course, participate with the mutual consent of both parties. While various carrying techniques exist, the so-called Estonian technique predominates. The wife hangs inverted on the husband's back, using her legs to secure herself around his neck and waist. The course is challenging. Essential components include a sandy area, a fence, and a water-filled hole. The wife's weight is subject to regulation. A minimum of 49 kilograms is required. Otherwise, a weighted pack is provided. The primary prize is significant. The winner receives a quantity of beer equal in weight to his wife. The competition is held annually in Sankajärvi, attracting an audience comparable to that of local hockey matches. It's noteworthy that what began as a humorous parody has evolved into a cherished national tradition. Fact number 2. New Zealand's official name registration for children adheres to a list of acceptable names. This list undergoes regular updates and previously contained applications like Lucifer, Mafia No Fear, Anal, and For Real. The authorities explain this policy by stating that names must not be offensive, deceptive, or resemble titles. Documents from 2011 also record more unusual instances. Parents attempted to name their daughter Queen Victoria and their son with an empty space. Yes, a blank entry. One case involved a father denied the name Justice because it could give the impression of a legal title. Compared to this, a 2008 incident seems almost absurd. A girl registered as Tallulah Does the Hula from Hawaii was temporarily removed from her family by court order. The judge's statement was, the child suffers from a ridiculous name that makes her an object of mockery. She was 9 years old and refused to utter her name, even amongst friends. The third point. Mongolia maintained a long-standing government program focused on the training of carrier pigeons. This is not a historical curiosity, but a fact from the mid-20th century. After World War II, the nation actively pursued solutions for rapid communication between its distant AMOGs, administrative areas spread across the steppes where roads served more as directional guides than as a developed infrastructure. The government established a specialized pigeon department, acquiring birds from the Soviet Union and China, constructing pigeon coops in Ulaanbaatar and key locations, and initiating training. Mail delivery was strictly one way. Pigeons were kept in the capital, each district receiving its own birds for release. The birds returned independently. Each pigeon wore a numbered ring, and archives still contain reports with entries like, "Pigeon number 226 arrived late due to strong wind." By the 1980s, the program was phased out with the emergence of satellite radio and, subsequently, mobile technology. However, a stone emblem depicting a soaring pigeon with the Cyrillic inscription, "Communication is a matter of state importance," remains visible on a government building in Ulaanbaatar. Fourth point. An Italian village has a law officially prohibiting death. This is not a figure of speech, but a local government regulation. The village is Lagazza degli Ozzi, a small community in the Campania region. Around 1990, the local cemetery filled to capacity, and an agreement with neighboring towns for burials was suspended due to bureaucratic problems. The town council, without waiting for regional intervention, issued a decree. Death is temporarily prohibited within the municipality. Those who violate this law will be held responsible. The signature and seal were legitimate. Obviously, no one was punished, but the event created considerable media attention, national news coverage, journalist visits, and many tourists wanting to see the place where dying is illegal. Locals at the time took significant steps. According to a medical worker, elderly patients suspected of having heart attacks were quickly transferred to nearby towns to avoid compounding the legal issues. 2 years later, the problem was solved, but the phrase prohibition of death became a widely known meme and is now used in school textbooks as an example of a bizarre but real legal situation. The fifth point. A unique insurance policy is available in Japan to protect against poor weather conditions during a date. This policy provides compensation for emotional distress caused by rain or snow interfering with romantic plans. Introduced in the early 2000s, it was initially viewed as a quirky marketing strategy. However, its effectiveness has been proven. Sampo Japan Insurance offers a specific plan. If Tokyo receives more than a certain amount of precipitation, for example 5 millimeters, on the date, the client receives compensation, covering costs from taxi fares to the entire dinner bill. All terms are prearranged. A prior application is necessary, including the date, location, and the partner's name, to deter fraudulent claims. Separate plans are available for weddings, photo shoots, and graduation events. The calculations are based on data from the Japan Meteorological Agency, ensuring impartiality. Remarkably, over a decade, this policy has become extremely popular, with some cafes in Shibuya and Ginza including its cost in their romantic packages, a date without risk. The Japanese preference for precision and predictability has extended beyond the mundane and into the emotional sphere. The result is not only appealing, but also financially sound. The number of weather-related date cancellations has significantly decreased. Number 6. A curious fact from Nicaragua. One can face imprisonment for attempting to bribe the spirit of a lake. In the early 2000s, a group of farmers living by Lake Cociboca performed a ritual to soothe the waters, throwing a pig, a basket of corn, and a bottle of rum into the lake. They considered this an ancient tradition to appease La Sirena, a mythical woman-fish who is said to punish those taking water without permission. The issue arose when a participant filmed the ritual and posted it online. Within a week, the prosecution launched a case alleging water pollution, sanitary violations, and, significantly, attempting to negotiate with a supernatural being outside the state licensing system. The charge, though illogical, was legally sound. Local law classifies water bodies as national assets, mandating that any actions affecting water use be approved by the authorities. The trial lasted almost 12 months. Eventually, the case was dropped due to insufficient evidence, yet the precedent lingers. Local residents now conduct rituals without sacrifices and discreetly, away from cameras. A sign is posted on the lakeshore. Coordinate any spiritual actions with the municipality. The sign is real. A picture is available on Google Maps. The seventh point. Lebanon still has a law that formally permits the kidnapping of a woman, provided the act concludes with marriage. This law emerged during the colonial period when French legal codes were combined with local customs. Until recently, a section of the country's criminal code stated, if a man abducts a woman for marriage and subsequently marries her, the criminal investigation is closed. Some defend it as protecting honor. Human rights defenders call it institutionalized violence. There have been instances. In 2012, a marriage took place at a police station to avoid jail time. Only in 2017, under public pressure, did Parliament repeal this clause. However, the concept remains prevalent in society, especially in rural areas where marriage by abduction is seen not as a crime but as an unconventional form of courtship. This appears as an anachronism against the backdrop of modernization efforts preserved within the language and traditions. It is notable that the word kidnapping in Lebanese Arabic is often substituted with the gentler removal, as if referring to property instead of a person. The eighth point. In Hungary, a department specializing in hairdressing exists within a medical university. Located in Szeged, it's formally known as the Department of Trichology and Applied Aesthetics. Although officially part of the Faculty of Medical Technologies, the program focuses on practical skills, haircutting, coloring, scalp analysis, and effective client communication. The three-year program includes exams, a final thesis, and a practical internship. A mandatory course covers client psychology and stress management, justified by the statement, "A hairdresser is the first confessor, and you need to know how to handle it." Its roots lie in post-war Hungary, where hairdressing was a vital part of the social fabric. In the 1960s, a research center emerged from a technical college, later becoming part of the university. The department now graduates around 30 specialists annually. The teaching staff includes doctors, theatrical makeup artists, chemical technologists, and even former diplomats. One course, Visual Code of Identity, examines how hairstyles reflect social standing, status, and mood. This isn't unusual. It's a characteristic of Eastern Europe, where a single diploma connects the worlds of barbering and biopsychology. Point 9. In India, some trains operate without a set schedule. Their departure time depends entirely on the number of passengers. This isn't a chaotic system, but a carefully designed logistical solution, particularly beneficial in sparsely populated rural regions where scheduled services would be economically unsustainable. These are referred to as ghost trains. Officially listed as reserve trains, they provide a regular, albeit demand-driven service. The routes are typically short, 30 to 50 kilometers, connecting villages and district centers. Operation is not always under the National Railways' purview. Regional authorities or private contractors may also manage these services. The operational procedure is as follows. Passengers gather at the station platform. The locomotive driver awaits the dispatcher's signal, and departure is authorized only upon reaching approximately half capacity. In certain circumstances, particularly during peak agricultural periods, trains may run without intermediate stops to avoid disrupting freight transport. A prime example is the Madhupur-Jamtara line in Jharkhand. Locals attest that departure times can vary from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, depending not on a timetable but on the volume of goods, carts and sacks of produce requiring transport. A sign at the station simply reads, "Next train, when ready." Interestingly, these seemingly irregular services are considered highly dependable. A departing train is certain to reach its destination. Point 10. Flushing a toilet after 10 p.m. is against the rules in Swiss multi-unit dwellings. This isn't a criminal law. It's a local housing regulation controlled at the cantonal or municipal level. The reason is clear. After 2200 hours, any noise disturbing neighbors is a disturbance of the peace. The noise from a toilet flush, especially in older buildings with metal pipes, is included. While not universally enforced, the rule exists. Neighbors have called the police on late-night bathroom users. A prominent incident occurred in Basel in 2016, resulting in a fine for repeated disturbance of the peace, with active nighttime toilet flushing explicitly stated. Therefore, architects designing new buildings are now creating quiet bathrooms with silent flushing systems, improved sound insulation, and warning notices. It's a situation reminiscent of science fiction. A country where noise is regulated designs toilets like recording studios. The goal is to ensure undisturbed sleep for neighbors. Point 11. The Chilean town of Sewell is notable for its complete absence of streets. Founded high in the Andes Mountains to house the workers of the El Teniente copper mine, its distinguishing feature is the lack of roads in the traditional sense. People move between houses, the hospital, the school, and the church using stairs. Over 300 sets of stairs connect the various levels of the town, which is built on a mountain slope, much like a complex, multi-storied anthill. Starting in the early 1900s, the American company Braden Copper financed its construction, and the town developed as an independent industrial community. The mine was located below, while residential areas, shops, and a cinema were situated above. All goods, from food to construction materials, were transported up inclined tracks. Cars never made it to the town. Roads in Sewell remain absent to this day. After the mine was nationalized in the 1970s, the population began to dwindle, but the architecture has been preserved. Colorful houses, miners' clubs, and extensive staircases. Now abandoned, it is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Tourists access it via a narrow mountain road, and from there, only walking, only uphill. The irony is that this town, built to represent progress, has become a symbol of life without cars. The 12th point. Canada once had a law allowing for official divorce via newspaper publication. This method emerged in the 19th century because obtaining a divorce through the courts was difficult and expensive in remote areas. The alternative was a declaration of intent in a major newspaper. A husband would publish a statement saying that his wife left the marital home without cause, and if she didn't return within 30 days, he could consider the marriage dissolved. In some provinces, these notices were legally binding, especially if unchallenged. Major newspapers such as the Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, and La Presse dedicated sections to these announcements, placing them alongside advertisements for things like yarn and bicycles. Some announcements were quite formal. My lawful wife, Suzanne M., left my home in Saskatchewan on February 2nd. I request that she be considered no longer belonging to me. These announcements lost their legal standing in the mid-20th century with the federal government's unification of divorce procedures. However, thousands of these notices remain in archives. This means that many Canadians genuinely ended their marriages through newspaper columns, similar to returning a purchase to a store. Point 13. South Korea employed a distinctive method of calculating age, unlike the globally accepted standard. Before the year 2023, a newborn was deemed 1 year old upon birth, and every citizen gained a year on January 1st, regardless of their actual birth date. This practice was rooted in ancient Korean beliefs that equated the period of pregnancy with the first year of life. Thus, a baby born on December 31st, for example, would be considered 2 years old on January 1st. As a result, numerous Koreans held two ages, a domestic, Korean age, and an international age conforming to Western conventions. After considerable public discussion and pressure, the government eliminated this system. From June 2023, the law mandates age calculation solely based on the date of birth. This led to millions of Koreans officially becoming younger by 1 or 2 years on official documents. Social media platforms were saturated with posts like, "I'm 28 again," or "shaved off 2 years without hitting the gym." The administrative shift had practical consequences. Age in Korea affects pension benefits, military service, school entry, and even social interaction protocols. For many, this was not just a symbolic change, but a significant alteration of their social status. Number 14. Liechtenstein offers a remarkable service, renting the entire country. This encompasses its streets, national coat of arms, police force, and even the castle keys. This unusual offering commenced in the year 2010, resulting from a partnership between the local government and an American firm specializing in exclusive event management. The service targets corporations aiming for unique team-building activities and private individuals aspiring to experience life as a monarch. For a comparatively modest sum of around $700,000 daily, the renter receives a comprehensive package: a personal welcome from the mayor, temporary street renaming privileges, the issuance of specially designed coat of arms postage, guided tours of Vaduz Castle, and access to the ceremonial guard. Initially, the news was met with disbelief, but in 2011, Liechtenstein's Ministry of Tourism confirmed the country's availability for rent, albeit with certain restrictions. The daily lives of citizens remain undisturbed, government functions continue uninterrupted, and the rental solely pertains to the atmospheric and ceremonial aspects. The first client was a prosperous Hong Kong businessman who celebrated his birthday there with 50 guests. The festivities included a costume ball, a medieval banquet, and an evening tour of local vineyards. Critics described it as simulating royal authority, but Liechtenstein responded with amusement, suggesting that if someone desires to feel like a prince, why not facilitate that, particularly if it contributes to the nation's economic prosperity. Number 15. In Zambia, a ministry unofficially called the Ministry of National Happiness once existed. Formerly, it was the Ministry of Religious Affairs and National Guidance. The popular name reflected its unique role, overseeing the spiritual and moral health of the nation. President Edgar Lungu created it in 2016, believing the government should manage not just the economy, defense, and health, but also the national mood. Its tasks included monitoring religious groups, combating spiritual corruption, promoting traditional values, and holding large-scale prayers for the nation. It issued quarterly reports graphing national morale based on surveys and church attendance. A 2018 report claimed Lusaka's Moral Stability Index increased by 3.5% after public sermons. It even proposed a National Peace Day, a holiday with mandatory quiet and meditation. Though dissolved in 2021, the idea persisted. Some functions moved to other agencies, and national happiness continues in parliamentary debate. In a country where one-third of the population is impoverished, this seems both hopeful and absurd. However, it was a formal initiative, with a budget and official status. 16th point. Nevada, a U.S. state, still allows the official registration of towns devoid of permanent residents. Jean, 50 kilometers from Las Vegas, exemplifies this. Its population is nil. Nevertheless, it boasts a name, zip code, official standing, and even a mayor, acting under power of attorney. The origin? Businessmen acquired land to build a logistics center. To simplify taxes and access federal grants, they established it as a municipality. Nevada law permits this, requiring a charter, income source, land rental or casinos, and a temporary representative to sign the paperwork. Jean lacks schools, homes, and hospitals. It comprises warehouses, a gas station, and some slot machines. Workers commute, work, and return to Vegas. Formally, though, it's a town, with a crest, charter, and a symbolic annual report highlighting accomplishments such as a new sign or a repainted fire hydrant. It's almost a legal paradox, showcasing American bureaucratic flexibility. Where else could a town be created without constructing any houses? A peculiar punishment exists in Iran, the mandatory listening to classical poetry. This is not an exaggeration. In 2014, a court in Shiraz, instead of jail time, sentenced teenagers arrested for indecent dancing on TikTok to spiritual rehabilitation. This involved daily readings and listenings of works by Hafez, Sadi, and Rumi, followed by essay assignments. The ruling provoked a mixed reaction in the press. Some lauded the soft power of culture. Others saw it as derision, claiming poetry loses its value as punishment. However, the judge defended his decision, asserting the goal was not to suppress, but to guide. A similar case arose in Tehran in 2016, where a man who insulted a woman was sentenced to daily public readings of Omar Khayyam's poetry for a month. Notably, such sentences fall under alternative punishments, permissible in Iran's judicial system when the crime is considered moral, not criminal. Human rights organizations report numerous similar cases, including mandatory attendance at philosophy seminars, lectures on Islamic history, and calligraphy courses. Consequently, in a country with many prohibitions, punishment becomes a refined form of teaching, with rhyme but without choice. Number 18. In Norway, certain correctional facilities are structured more like comfortable dormitories, offering inmates amenities including cooking facilities, television, and even keys to their rooms. A notable example is Bastøy Island, located 50 kilometers from Oslo. This ecological prison houses approximately 80 inmates convicted of non-violent crimes. Security measures typically associated with prisons, such as barbed wire, armed guards, and solitary confinement, are absent. In their place are wooden cottages, opportunities for farm work and fishing, philosophy courses, and self-sufficient meal preparation. Each inmate is provided with keys to their own cottage, participates in creating a duty roster, and has access to a ferry schedule for travel to the mainland for appointments such as court appearances or medical visits. The stated aim is rehabilitation, not punishment. The prison administration highlights, "We don't isolate, we socialize." The recidivism rate among former Bastoy inmates is exceptionally low, less than 20%, compared to over 60% in the USA. It is important to understand that this facility does not accept individuals convicted of violent crimes like murder or rape. Rather, it houses inmates convicted of crimes such as fraud, robbery, or tax evasion. A former inmate described his experience in an interview. "It was like a long summer camp with a strong sense of guilt." While some criticize the system for its perceived leniency, Norwegians believe that society benefits from the release of individuals who are not embittered, but rather restored. The island itself is officially designated a green zone, generating 100% of its energy from wind and solar power. The 19th fact: Egypt has a dedicated police unit specializing in the protection of antiquities. Their duties involve more than just museum security. They investigate thefts, forgeries, and even alleged acts of magic performed on historical artifacts. Established in 1984, this unit, officially named the Department for the Protection of Heritage and Antiquities, operates a countrywide network of agents and informants, particularly in villages where locals sometimes discover ancient objects after storms. Notable cases include not only attempts to smuggle sarcophagi and statues, but also the sale of counterfeit amulets claimed to be cursed. In 2008, a man was arrested in Giza for selling a fraudulent Tutankhamun's box constructed from a fruit crate in a garage. In 2019, a family was apprehended in Luxor for presenting a homemade gypsum sarcophagus as a relic of the 18th dynasty. Their investigative approach combines archaeological and police techniques: searches, soil analysis, and examination of soil and ancient pigments. One report describes how agents tracked a criminal group using sand on their shoes, which matched the soil at an excavation site. This is, in essence, the opposite of Indiana Jones. They don't search for artifacts, they protect them from criminals. Number 20. Thailand's annual Lopburi Monkey Buffet Festival, running since 1989, features monkeys as official participants. Initially a tourist attraction, it's become a significant cultural event. Massive tables are erected in the city center, overflowing with pineapples, watermelons, bananas, and cakes, up to 2 tons of food daily. About 2,000 monkeys, arriving in family units, partake in the feast. They climb statues, squabble over corn, investigate visitors, pilfer glasses, and sometimes even perform acrobatic feats into fountains. Locals hold a philosophical view, believing monkeys bring good luck and protection from evil. Schools, businesses, and the army assist in preparations. Soldiers help with setup and security. Thousands of tourists attend, and hotels warn, "Beware of primate theft." One incident involved a monkey stealing a passport from a backpack, carrying it to a temple, and destroying it. While the passport was lost, the story gained international attention. Therefore, in a country where spiritual and physical aspects merge in celebration, the monkey transcends symbolism, becoming a true participant in the feast. Point 21. Saudi Arabia had a ban on chess until recently. It wasn't a legally enshrined ban, but in 2016, the nation's Grand Mufti publicly announced that chess causes discord among people, distracts from prayer, and promotes gambling. This statement generated significant backlash. International sports organizations protested, and a distinctive campaign arose domestically. Chess players began posting pictures of their games online using the hashtag #ChessIsNotASin. This wasn't a new prohibition. In the 1980s, religious authorities sought to equate chess with card games, especially following a fight at a city tournament. However, chess didn't vanish from the country. It continued underground, in universities, community centers, and even certain cafes. Formal tournaments were absent, but private clubs persisted. A turning point arrived in 2017 with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's reforms. As part of an image modernization effort, the chess ban was effectively lifted. In 2018, Riyadh hosted the World Rapid and Blitz Tournament, a symbolic event. A country where chess was practically forbidden now held a championship under the International Chess Federation. Interestingly, the winner was a Russian player, from a country where chess was once considered a bourgeois pastime. Number 22 fact. In Australia, a unique system of post boxes exists, specifically for penguins. This isn't metaphorical. It's a real initiative created by environmental scientists on Phillip Island near Melbourne. This island supports a colony of little penguins, the only penguin species worldwide that doesn't exceed 40 centimeters in height. The colony's population experienced a sharp decline in 1985 due to nest loss from soil erosion and fox attacks. Scientists undertook an experimental approach, constructing artificial shelters. These were concrete structures designed to resemble post boxes, round entrances with protective overhangs. They were positioned on the coastal slopes for a trial period. After half a year, the results were remarkable. Over 60% of the penguins began using them as permanent residences. The project has grown substantially since then. Currently, over 1,000 such shelters are in place, many incorporating motion sensors and thermal cameras for monitoring. Local school children personalize the boxes with artwork and names. George's House, Nest number 207. And individuals can adopt a box via donations to a local nature conservation center. The unexpected outcome is that these artificial boxes are superior to natural burrows in terms of durability and reliability. They are leak-proof, structurally sound, and snake-resistant. Consequently, in Australia, the only location outside Antarctica with a penguin population, a concrete box has become synonymous with a safe and comfortable home for these small birds. Number 23. In France, it is possible to legally pursue a lawsuit against cockroaches. This is not figurative language. It describes actual class action lawsuits against building owners neglecting sanitary standards. Instances have been recorded in Paris, Lyon, and Marseille where tenants initiated legal action citing infringement upon the right to peaceful living caused by parasite infestation. Evidence sometimes included photographs and specimens preserved in jars labeled "kitchen discovery" emerged from electrical outlet. The court, naturally, did not recognize the cockroaches as legal persons, but penalties imposed on the owners reached tens of thousands of euros. In 2019, one such case received considerable media attention. The municipality designated the building a biological risk zone and compelled the management company to compensate each resident for property damage and for emotional distress resulting from the persistent insect presence. The peculiarity of the situation was amplified by the plaintiff's attorney employing the term infrastructural terror, which was duly recorded in the court transcript. Sociologists interpret these legal actions as a symptom of urban fatigue. When municipal services are inadequate, citizens seek to assign blame. Consequently, the cockroach became a participant in legal proceedings, and the court decision served as a tool in the struggle for acceptable living conditions. 24. In Bolivia, a law allows indigenous women to take leave from work to engage in ancestral spirit practices. This is officially designated the right to a spiritual break, enshrined in Article 30 of the country's new constitution ratified in 2009. This constitution affirms the status of the indigenous population and permits the observance of traditional practices, including religious rituals under labor law. This means an Aymara or Quechua woman can take leave with a valid reason, such as participating in a Pachamama, Earth Mother, Thanksgiving ceremony, or undergoing a purification ritual. In some areas, especially mountainous ones, these leaves are regularly granted and employers must accommodate them. A leading Bolivian trade union has even produced a standard application form stating the reason as participation in a spiritual practice recognized by the community. The government emphasizes this is not a privilege but a redress of historical injustice. Importantly, administrative records show these leaves improve employee mental health and reduce workplace conflict. Therefore, in a country where indigenous cultures were long secondary, they are now officially recognized grounds for leave. This is not an exception, it is the norm. Officially recognized. Number 25. Singapore maintains a complete ban on chewing gum, a law punishable by criminal charges. This ban, established in 1992, reflects Singapore's stringent approach to urban maintenance. Anything compromising aesthetics or infrastructure is eliminated. The problem originated with chewing gum discovered adhering to metro station door sensors, causing malfunctions in automated systems. Annual cleaning expenses reached millions of dollars. The government's response was decisive, a total prohibition. The import, sale, and public consumption of chewing gum were outlawed. An exception was made in 2004 under pressure from the United States as a result of free trade agreement discussions. Only medicinal chewing gum containing nicotine or calcium is now permitted, requiring a prescription, purchase at a pharmacy, and passport verification. Individuals caught chewing without cause face significant fines, while those selling face imprisonment. Instances of tourists being detained at the airport for possessing chewing gum have been reported. A common local saying is, "Chewing gum is like a weapon. It seems minor, but it must be handled carefully." The city's cleanliness is truly impressive, gleaming sidewalks and immaculate public transportation. Maintaining this order requires the sacrifice of a common habit. Rather than cleaning up litter, Singapore proactively prevents it. A state-sponsored position in the Czech Republic is that of official water taster. This is not metaphorical. It refers to a technical specialist who regularly and directly by mouth samples water from the public water system. In a nation where beer holds the status of a national treasure, water is treated with similar respect. Following the privatization of utilities in the 1990s, the need for independent assessment became apparent. This resulted in the establishment of the Organoleptic Control Service, an organization whose members visit wells, water sources, and distribution centers to personally evaluate the water's taste, odor, and appearance. They are officially designated organoleptic inspectors, but are commonly known as water sommeliers. Jan Novak, one such inspector, reported in a Czech publication that he can distinguish between Moravian and Prague water based on subtle mineral notes. The work is challenging. 8-hour shifts, strict tasting procedures, and mandated breaks between samples to prevent sensory fatigue. An inspector may sample up to 600 specimens per month, each meticulously recorded. Notably, internal standards allow for a faint sulfur smell, provided it is of natural origin and short-term. Thus, in a country where water is not simply a utility but a cultural icon, its quality is verified both scientifically and through sensory evaluation. While some individuals are dedicated to wine tasting, others are equally devoted to the tasting of tap water. The 27th fact. In Turkmenistan, throughout the 2000s, opera was officially forbidden as a musical form. The reason, stated by then-President Sapir Murat Niyazov, was direct. Opera and ballet are incompatible with Turkmen culture. This decree astonished even those accustomed to the eccentric pronouncements of the leader, known as Turkmenbashi. The National Theater underwent a significant shift. Its programming changed to include traditional performances, musical dramas utilizing local instruments, and events showcasing national achievements. Musicians were compelled to find alternative careers. Some transitioned to popular music, while others left the country. Students at conservatories pursued classical music studies clandestinely or abroad. Some final-year concerts took place in private homes with windows covered. There were also absurd incidents. In 2005, a symphony orchestra performed a Mozart piece, presenting it as a traditional European suite without a libretto. The prohibition began to lessen only after Niyazov's death. In 2009, opera reappeared in Ashgabat, unofficially but with implied governmental approval. In 2019, Carmen was even produced, reimagined with a Turkmen woman from a border region as the lead. However, an official reversal of the ban remains absent. The irony is that the nation which banned opera as foreign eventually adopted it under the guise of its own interpretation, with an orchestra but without mentioning Verdi. The 28th point. It is legally permissible in Argentina to be named Maradona. This applies not just to official paperwork, but also to religious affiliation. This is due to the existence of the so-called Church of Maradona, an informal yet officially acknowledged public organization established in 1998. Its founders were ardent admirers of the legendary footballer who developed a unique calendar system, reckoning years from the first year after the Hand of God goal. The principal place of worship is situated in Rosario, and the number of adherents worldwide surpasses 100,000. They possess 10 commandments, one of which states, "Love football above all." Their emblem is a football boot adorned with a cross, and they even conduct a baptism in the name of Diego ceremony in youth football academies. Responding to journalists' inquiries regarding the distinction between jest and genuine belief, a founder remarked, "It's a religion for those who have lost their way, but not their faith in a miracle with a ball." During the 2010s, the church sought registration as a non-traditional faith, but the application was denied on grounds of religious parity. After Maradona's passing in 2020, activity intensified significantly. Pilgrimages to his residence commenced, museums were established, and there were even attempts at internal symbolic canonization. Technically, it's folklore. In essence, it's a remarkable phenomenon. A nation where football transcends politics has created the world's first cult where the number 10 is not merely a number, but a sacred icon. Number 29. Sweden officially recognized a religion centered around copying. This religion, known as the Copimism mission, considers the act of copying information to be sacred. The movement started in 2010 when Isak Gerland, a philosophy student, published a blog post suggesting that the copying and distribution of knowledge represented a form of spiritual awakening. The following year, he formally registered the religious movement, establishing a charter that defined symbols of faith, Control-C and Control-V, rituals, file sharing, and an ethical code, emphasizing the importance of accurate and freely shared information. Swedish law prohibits the state from determining the validity of religious beliefs unless they break the law. In 2012, the tax agency granted Copinism official religious status. This resulted in a diverse array of reactions, ranging from satirical media coverage to in-depth philosophical discussions in academic settings. Gerland maintained that this was not a parody. We live in an era where information has become a new form of the sacred. Copying is not theft, but prayer. The church has a defined structure, including altar operators and truth translators. A core ritual is the copy service, a large-scale file exchange performed to the music of Bach and the sounds of a modem. At its peak, the movement boasted approximately 5,000 members. Despite a decline in activity, the official recognition remains. Therefore, Sweden became the pioneer in legally recognizing and philosophically justifying file copying as a religious practice. Number 30. In Belgium, a government-sponsored program provides companionship to lonely individuals. This is not a figure of speech. It's a genuine service offered by the Centrum voor Algemeen Welzijnswerk, Center for General Welfare. The Lonely Friend program pairs those experiencing isolation with specially trained volunteers. This social support service is free and non-medical. The volunteer's role is simply to offer regular companionship, listening, and occasional shared activities like walks or shopping trips. The matching process lasts up to a month, involving assessments, interviews, and a trial meeting. The companionship lasts 3 months, renewable by mutual consent. Initially a pilot project in Ghent in 2014, the program has proven remarkably successful, reducing anxiety levels and psychiatric consultations by 30% among individuals over 70. The program is now nationwide. While the basic concept isn't new, Belgium's implementation is unique. Volunteers receive a small stipend, undergo training, and submit reports. One report stated, "We discussed cherry pie and suddenly felt we were living again." This highlights how, even in a highly individualistic society, a formalized friendship can be a powerful antidote to loneliness. Number 31. Iceland features a database, the Íslendingabók, Book of Icelanders, enabling individuals to ascertain potential familial ties with prospective partners. This database spans nearly the entire history of the Icelandic population, commencing in the 9th century. The impetus for its development was genetic, not romantic. Iceland's population, approximately 400,000, is largely descended from roughly 900 original settlers. This creates a genetically homogeneous society, increasing the likelihood of unintentional kinship in romantic relationships. In 1997, geneticist Kari Stephenson and programmer Fridrik Skulason introduced Íslendingabók as an online initiative, incorporating over 1 million names with their genealogical links, dating back to the initial settlements. Access is granted to all citizens. They simply input their identification number and that of their prospective partner. The system alerts users if common ancestors are found within 7 generations. One developer recalled a wedding where the couple discovered a shared great-great-great-grandmother. While not leading to divorce, it created an uncomfortable situation. A student joke at the University of Reykjavik emerged. Database first, then kiss. Originally a scientific undertaking, Íslendingabók has become integrated into everyday Icelandic social norms. Checking for kinship is not viewed as distrust, but as a customary practice. In a land of volcanoes and sagas, technology mitigates the risk of overly close relationships. Fact number 32. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, paying taxes with goods is still officially permitted. In remote areas with limited access to currency, the government accepts payment in the form of eggs, bananas, goats, cassava, and even fish. This practice stems from the Belgian colonial period, when farmers were obligated to provide a portion of their crops as a tax in kind. After independence in 1960, the system wasn't repealed, but rather adjusted. The law allows local authorities to define alternative payment options where banking infrastructure is lacking. In practice, a resident brings 2 buckets of corn to the administrative office and receives a land tax receipt. In certain instances, the goods are immediately sent to school canteens or hospitals. A curious incident occurred in one region. A man paid his taxes with 2 live chickens, but one escaped before registration, raising the question of partial payment acceptance. The chicken was eventually found and the tax was considered paid. Economists offer contrasting perspectives. Some view it as a relic of the past, others as a sign of flexibility. In reality, it's a viable system in areas lacking banking services but possessing abundant harvests. Even a mango-scented receipt remains legally binding. Number 33. On Madagascar, family tombs are the setting for yearly picnics. The tradition is known as Famadihana, translating to the turning of the bones. In this ritual, family members exhume their ancestors' remains, rewrap them in fresh cloth, and dance with them. This isn't considered shocking or primitive. It's a time-honored ritual with profound spiritual meaning. The Malagasy believe a soul fully leaves the body only after years of rest, and each Famadihana accelerates this process. The event transforms into a multi-day celebration. Numerous people gather, music plays, food is prepared, and the ancestors' bodies, meticulously wrapped in silk, are removed from their tombs and exposed to the air. They are carried on shoulders, addressed, danced with, and photographed. This isn't considered shocking or primitive. Sometimes fresh newspapers are placed nearby, allowing the ancestor to keep abreast of current events. The ceremony takes place every 7 to 9 years, the expense often surpassing the family's annual income. Loans have been secured to finance Famadihana. Authorities have attempted to limit the practice due to health concerns, especially during infectious disease outbreaks, but local resistance remains strong. It's seen as a demonstration of respect and a reinforcement of kinship ties. An elder told reporters, "We take care of the dead because they are our flesh and our memory." Thus, in Madagascar, the boundary between life and death isn't a wall, but a stage, with dancing, traditions, and the scent of grilled meat. Many streets in Poland bear the names of animals, hundreds in fact. This practice originated during the reforms of the 90s, when the widespread replacement of Soviet and Communist-era street names took place. Inhabitants of Warsaw, Krakow, and other cities submitted numerous requests for neutral or positive street names. This resulted in streets being named after the hedgehog, cat, sheep, bee, and even the snail. A Badger Street exists in the suburbs of Donsk, and a Peacock Street can be found in Lodz. In 2008, an entire district on the outskirts of Wrocław received animal-themed names: Beaver, Bear, Owl, and Unicorn Streets, despite the unicorn's absence from Polish fauna. Local authorities raised no objections, viewing the animal names as symbols of care, tranquility, and a means of overcoming ideological tensions. The residents quickly embraced the change. Children found it easier to remember addresses, and postal workers made fewer mistakes. The practice subsequently expanded. Some schools held votes to determine the names of new streets, with animals consistently winning. School children inaugurated Giraffe Street and installed the street sign themselves. These streets have become a characteristic feature of Poland's suburban areas. They are frequently photographed and shared on Instagram, although the street signs are sometimes stolen. Cat street signs are the most common targets of theft. Paradoxically, in a country with a challenging history and significant political polarization, animal names have proven to be the most uncontroversial way to name a street. The 35th fact: Myanmar banknotes showcase images of a rooster, elephant, lion, and fish. However, no political figures are depicted. This is a direct result of a long-standing governmental policy avoiding the inclusion of leaders' portraits on their currency. The reasoning behind this isn't rooted in modesty, but rather in widespread superstition and the fear of a so-called banknote curse. In the 1980s, the then ruler, General Ne Win, abruptly removed almost all existing banknotes from circulation and introduced replacements with denominations in multiples of 19. This action was justified by astrological predictions. The general's personal astrologer insisted that 19 was his lucky number. This decision led to a significant economic downturn, resulting in substantial financial losses for many citizens. Since this event, the population has viewed banknotes with suspicion, associating images of people with potential bad luck. Later, when the possibility of reintroducing portraits was considered, a group of monks petitioned the Ministry of Finance with the following statement: "Don't risk it. The spirit of money doesn't like faces." As a consequence, banknotes now feature animals, pagodas, bridges, and mythical beings. The Chinthe lion, a guardian of Buddhist temples, is especially popular. One specific series even includes a barely visible temple outline alongside the lion. Rubbing this is said to bring good luck in business. Tourists frequently purchase these banknotes as souvenirs. In summary, in a nation characterized by frequent coups and political decrees, the currency remains a domain of symbolic representations, animals and spirits, but not people. Number 36. Brazil allows for the official registration of a ritual marriage with oneself. This practice, termed sologamia, has gained legal standing in several states, including São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. It entails a full wedding ceremony, the signing of a self-contract, and the issuance of a symbolic marriage certificate. The movement began with feminist activists advocating for self-acceptance and liberation from societal expectations. In the year 2016, Laura Medeiros, a Belo Horizonte accountant, performed the first such ceremony. In a white dress, with a ring, amidst the applause of friends, and with vows made to herself. The number of sologamists has since risen. Agencies now organize these ceremonies, offering complete packages, and certain hotels provide discounts. A market for related goods has also developed. Double rings, mirrors engraved with "You are my everything," and anniversary cards addressed to oneself. Critics denounce it as a narcissistic cult, but participants assert it's an act of self-affirmation, especially beneficial for those recovering from divorce or trauma. Legally, this union offers no inheritance or tax advantages, but the records are kept in the civil registry. Consequently, in a nation with deeply rooted family-centric wedding traditions, a new model has emerged. Bride, groom, and observer are one and the same. This marriage will, of course, endure until the individual grows weary of themselves. The 37th fact. In Canada, citizenship can be granted for correcting a grammatical error in an official document. This occurred in 2008. Vlad Horvat, an immigrant from Romania, identified an inaccuracy in an immigration form. The English version omitted an article, thereby changing the legal interpretation of the section on employment history. Horvat submitted a formal letter to the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration, providing explanations, examples, and references to Oxford Standard English Grammar. A reply arrived 2 months later, an expression of gratitude, acknowledgement of the error, and an offer of expedited naturalization. Horvat was 2 months short of fulfilling the residency requirement, but the ministry exercised its discretion to grant him an exception. Internal policies permitted rewarding acts of special initiative, and the case of the meticulous Romanian became an example of how precision can overcome bureaucratic obstacles. The story received media attention, and the ministry subsequently received letters from other immigrants reporting discovered errors. While some were unfounded, one instance, concerning the translation of the French phrase preuve de résidence, did result in updated application forms. Therefore, Canada, a nation where law and grammar are paramount, reaffirmed its reputation as a country where even a comma can significantly impact one's future. Number 38. In the Indonesian province of Banten lies Baduy Dalam, a village inhabited by the Baduy people. The population is approximately 5,000, and these individuals have willingly foregone all modern technologies, electricity, mobile phones, televisions, and internet access. This decision is rooted in their religious beliefs. They believe that technology interferes with the balance between humanity, nature, and ancestral spirits. Traditional, unbleached cotton clothing is the norm. They travel on foot, build houses without nails, and shun synthetic materials. While tourists are allowed, there are conditions. Phones are left at the entrance, photography is prohibited, and overnight stays require the village elders' approval. Government efforts to provide electricity have been met with opposition. Even the National ID Card initiative has faced resistance. Many Baduy refuse ID cards, stating that a name fixed on plastic loses its power. Interestingly, a peripheral community, Baduy Luar, utilizes some modern conveniences. They act as a bridge between the technologically advanced world and the world where cloth is still crafted from tree bark. Consequently, in a country of 260 million where TikTok enjoys near religious status, a place exists where Wi-Fi is unknown and undesirable. Fact number 39. In Germany, a formally registered profession exists, apology consultant. This service is in high demand across legal, commercial, and personal spheres. The specialist's function is to guide clients in delivering apologies that are accurate, courteous, and sensitive to German cultural norms. This profession emerged in the early 2000s and aughts when major corporations discovered that poorly phrased apologies frequently led to litigation. A single inappropriate word and the client perceives the apology as perfunctory rather than sincere. Consequently, a collaboration of lawyers and psycholinguists formed the consulting firm Entschuldigungskultur GmbH, Culture of Apologies. They began providing apology letter templates, training programs, and subsequently direct representation for corporations. The service eventually extended to private life. Couples utilize apology consultants during complex divorces, parents in disputes with teachers, and neighbors in noise-related conflicts. The service is available in written, a carefully worded letter, and spoken, a personalized apology considering body language, tone, and pauses formats. Specializations within the profession include medical malpractice, dismissals, and family disputes. A prominent expert, Dr. Michael Kramer, maintains, a good apology is an act of precision. It should diffuse emotion, not generate a counterreaction. Thus, in a nation where order supersedes compromise, the skill of apologizing effectively has evolved into a paid profession. A law exists in Nigeria that prosecutes false accusations of witchcraft. Article 210 of the Nigerian Criminal Code, addressing public declarations of witchcraft, stipulates that publicly accusing someone of witchcraft without evidence leads to a fine or other punishment. This legislation aims to protect women and children from the ongoing practice of witch hunting in some regions. Although enacted in the mid-20th century, its robust application began only in the past 2 decades due to a surge in violence. The expulsion of teenagers from homes, the assault of women, and the staging of cleansing ceremonies in villages. A notable case occurred in Calabar in 2009. A man who called his neighbor a devil's conduit after her goat repeatedly entered his property was fined. The court explicitly stated, "Belief does not exempt one from the law." This has resulted in the formation of human rights groups monitoring the anti-witchcraft law. One such group, the Child's Rights and Rehabilitation Network, produces reports, runs a hotline, and operates shelters. Billboards in cities now proclaim, "Accusation without proof is a crime." Consequently, in a country where supernatural beliefs are prevalent, the government endeavors to manage even the fight against witchcraft through legal means. In this struggle, words themselves constitute a weapon subject to legal penalties. 41st fact. In the South African Republic, a popular radio station broadcasts in 31 languages. This is Radio Sonder Grense, conceived as an experiment in multilingualism and national unity. Beginning with broadcasts in Afrikaans and English, the station faced immediate listener protests due to the association of these languages with colonialism and apartheid. The station's leadership responded by scheduling weekly broadcasts of programs, news, and music in all officially recognized South African languages, including Zulu, Xhosa, Sesotho, Tswana, Tsonga, Venda, and others. Sign language for the deaf is also featured via a live video stream with interpretation. The programming is unique. A morning talk show in Xhosa, a midday cooking segment in Sesotho, and evening performances by Afrikaans rock bands. Some programs are translated, others remain in their original language. The aim is to create a sense of belonging, even for listeners who don't fully understand the content. Station staff often remark, "We never get bored. Even if you didn't understand half the broadcast, you at least learned how another language sounds." The station received a UNESCO award in 2017 for its contribution to linguistic diversity. In a country where language can act as both a divider and a unifier, the radio station stands as a testament to reconciliation. In Iran, the sale of officially sanctioned dolls lacking noses continued until recently. These dolls were positioned as an alternative to Barbie dolls, which were banned as instruments of Western propaganda. The 1990s saw a government-led campaign focused on cultural self-identification, resulting in a ban on Western toys, cartoons, and dolls, including Barbie, due to their deemed unacceptable appearance. This led to the development of the Sarah and Dare dolls, a girl and boy depicted in traditional attire, possessing traditional facial features and conspicuously lacking a prominent nose. The designer stated that this design choice facilitated the avoidance of caricature and maintenance of the universality of the image. The public, however, referred to them as noseless dolls. Each doll came packaged with poetic quotes and a brief biography. Sarah, a schoolgirl who enjoys reading the Quran and drawing; and Dar, an athlete aspiring to be a doctor. During a period of cultural isolation, these dolls received official certification as toys that strengthen Islamic identity. Nevertheless, children overwhelmingly favored smuggled Barbie dolls, illicitly imported through Turkey and the United Arab Emirates. The paradoxical outcome was that the attempt to create a Western doll alternative produced a counterculture more discussed by adults than played with by children. Today, these noseless dolls are rare, but some antique shops in Tehran still feature Sara and Dare alongside dolls from the Shah's era. The position of state wizard in New Zealand was created in 1990. Ian Brackenbury Channell, a British national who immigrated to Christchurch in 1974, held this unique role for an extended period. His career began with street performances, including whimsical parades and what he termed climate correction rituals. Initially perceived as an eccentric, he eventually achieved widespread popularity, resulting in municipal recognition of his contributions to the city's cultural life. In 1990, he was officially appointed State Wizard of New Zealand by the mayor. His annual compensation was around 16,000 New Zealand dollars. His duties involved promoting tourism, fostering imagination, and encouraging cultural engagement. He participated in various ceremonies, presented diplomas to graduates, and even conducted cloud dispersal demonstrations using a megaphone. He became a local icon. The government's termination of his contract in 2021 provoked significant public backlash. Critics contended that magic is not merely a budgetary concern, but an essential element of the nation's identity. Channell himself famously stated, "A world without magic is an accounting report, and there is no love in a report." He continues to appear publicly in his robe and staff, leading tourists to inquire, "Is he the real one?" The local response is always, "He's the only one we elected not for promises, but for a miracle." 44th fact. The official cancellation of a wedding in Sierra Leone can be done through radio. In the country's rural areas where internet and mobile phone access remain a luxury, local radio stations act as multifaceted community platforms. Besides news and weather reports, they also broadcast announcements of broken engagements. This method is termed public disengagement, and it involves a short announcement, the bride's and groom's names, their village, the reason for the separation, and, frequently, gratitude for the time spent together. One such announcement stated, "Abdullah and Fatima from Bundu Junction have separated. By mutual agreement, we wish each other peace and prosperity." These announcements carry almost legal standing. They serve as proof of a verbal agreement's dissolution if disputes arise over returned gifts or bride price. Some stations have allocated specific broadcast times for social divorces, with a regular announcer in one region employing a soothing tone for these announcements. There have been unusual occurrences. One groom discovered his breakup through an accidental radio announcement heard on a bus. Conversely, this system addresses numerous challenges. In a society with limited access to official documentation, radio offers the fastest way to formally declare it's over, without controversy, but permanently. In Romania, specialized schools exist that offer tourists the chance to immerse themselves in the persona of Dracula. This concept originated in the village of Bran during the 1980s, when local residents decided to utilize the legend of Vlad the Impaler to boost tourism. Because restoring the original castle proved too difficult, the established courses centered around the art of nocturnal life. The curriculum includes acting skills, Gothic makeup techniques, vampire etiquette, and an introduction to Romanian folklore. The course unfolds over a single night. After sunset, participants are given cloaks, new names, undergo an initiation ritual, and learn the rules of conduct within this otherworldly society. These rules involve a ban on self-portraits in mirrors, a prohibition against expressing gratitude before midnight, and the obligatory offering of wine to guests without specifying its composition.
Initially intended as a light-hearted endeavor, the project experienced a surge in popularity after the release of Interview with a Vampire and similar Gothic films. Currently, a network of Szkoła de Natte schools operates across 3 regions of the country. Graduates receive diplomas inscribed with "completed the path into the night, and the night completed its path in him." The government does not interfere, classifying this as a form of cultural entertainment. Therefore, Romania, a country with a history marked by tragedy and complexity, has transformed a grim legend into an educational attraction, combining theatrical elements and wine tasting.
Nailao, a particular tax is imposed upon monks who engage in excessive conversation. This unconventional tax is not codified in national law, but is implemented according to the internal regulations of certain monasteries, predominantly in the northern provinces. The underlying principle is clear. Silence is valued as a virtue, while excessive talking disrupts monastic discipline and interferes with the meditative practices of others. A sign posted at the entrance of one monastery states, "To chatter is to dissipate is to not purify is to pay." The system functions on a principle of voluntary contribution for rule violations. Violations encompass not only loud speech, but also excessive commentary in daily interactions, extended discussions, complaints, or jokes instead of simple affirmative or negative responses. At Wat Sen Monastery in Luang Prabang, the abbot once instituted a fine of 1 cup of rice for each superfluous word uttered after the evening bell. Over a week, the monks accumulated nearly a full sack of rice, which was subsequently donated to a local organization supporting orphaned children. The mechanism is straightforward, reflecting the simplicity of Buddhist ethics. Speak freely, but be mindful of the consequences. In our contemporary world, overwhelmed by noise, this tax seems almost provocative. However, its effectiveness is undeniable. Laotian monasteries remain sanctuaries where silence is not merely the absence of sound, but a source of spiritual power. A word now imbued with value is less readily spoken. In Chile's southern region, a novel system of forest traffic lights manages puma movements. This is a key component of the City and Wild Nature Project established in Punta Arenas, where urban growth meets the natural puma habitat. Historically inhabiting Patagonia, pumas are increasingly venturing into suburban areas due to urban expansion, initially nocturnally and later also during the day. Instances of pumas appearing on school grounds, roads, and dashcam footage have been documented. Instead of eradication, the authorities chose integration. Thermal cameras, tracking technology, and, importantly, traffic lights on 3 major roads were deployed. When a sensor detects an approaching puma, a red light activates, simultaneously notifying local residents via a mobile app. A project engineer explained, "The puma doesn't understand it's in a city, but we can understand that we are in the forest." Operational since 2020, the program has already prevented numerous accidents, safeguarding both human and animal lives. Volunteers educate children about the red light system on forest roads as a warning of approaching wildlife. The project enjoys international recognition and is slated for expansion. The contrast is striking. While most countries would eliminate such animals, Chile has, in effect, given the pumas a green light, or rather, a red light, ensuring their safe passage. In the Netherlands, there's a custom as reverse Santa, a Christmas figure who receives presents from children. He is known as Zwarte Piet, or Black Pete, and his origins are rooted in medieval tales. He is, according to one account, Sinterklaas's, the Dutch equivalent from Santa Claus, assistant, responsible for compiling a list of well-behaved and naughty children, taking the latter away in a sack. However, starting in the mid-20th century, this tradition underwent a significant shift.
In numerous cities, children began giving Pete gifts, fruit, nuts, and letters expressing gratitude. This was a response to the growing criticism of Pete's image as a racist stereotype. His traditional depiction with dark skin and large earrings generated protests and international censure. In response, some communities initiated a reimagining of the character. Pete is no longer a figure of punishment, but a fatigued courier in need of support. Schools organize initiatives such as Give Pete a Break, where children draw beds for him, give him tea and sweets. Sinterklaas himself expresses his appreciation on national television. Without you, Pete wouldn't have managed December. Some cities even feature Petes of various colors, blue, green, and purple. In conclusion, the old myth wasn't eliminated, it was reinterpreted. Thus, a nation capable of thriving below sea level has also learned to manage social pressures, not by destroying existing structures, but by altering the course of tradition. The town of Borsellino, located in the Asti province of Italy, boasts the unique distinction of being officially recognized as a city of laughter. Its inhabitants are obliged to participate in the annual La Giornata della Risata Obbligatoria, or Day of Obligatory Laughter. This tradition commenced in the 1950s following the war, when the mayor implemented a novel approach. If nothing else brings happiness, let's try scheduled laughter. The first celebration occurred in the town square under the banner, "Laughter is not shameful." Citizens undertook the task of making at least one passerby laugh. Over the next few years, this practice solidified into an official holiday, incorporating the participation of the local school, church, and even the police force. Currently, the festival extends over 3 days, encompassing competitions for the loudest laugh, group readings of comic books, theatrical performances, and a unique clown march, a parade featuring participants in pajamas, socks, and styrofoam hats. Some shops now accept jokes as a form of payment. The process is straightforward. Tell a joke, receive a discount. A notice posted in the town hall states, "During the festival, please do not frown. Penalty, 1 joke allowed." Tourists are drawn to participate in this unusual civic ritual. The outcome is that where laughter was mandated, it has flourished. Paradoxically, from a contrived festivity, genuine joy has been cultivated. The 50th fact. Jamaica has a register of officially recognized prophets. This register, formerly known as the National Register of Spiritual Advisors, was established in 2013 following numerous scandals involving individuals falsely claiming prophetic abilities. These individuals defrauded people, solicited money, and in some instances caused tragic outcomes. The Ministry of Social Development developed a regulatory framework that includes certification for those providing spiritual counseling services. To be included in the register, applicants must undergo a psychological evaluation, demonstrate at least 5 years of verifiable experience, obtain a community endorsement, and agree to abide by a code of ethics. Those claiming abilities such as visions, communication with spirits, or future prediction are subject to increased scrutiny. While such claims are not forbidden, precise language and a clear rejection of medical advice are mandatory. A map on the ministry's website shows the location and operating hours of registered spiritual advisors. Braza Fire, a prophet featured in a documentary film, practices only during the full moon, speaks in rhyming verse, and wears an official government-issued badge. The existence of this register represents a unique compromise between the deeply entrenched cultural practice of prophecy and the need for government regulation. In a nation where faith is deeply ingrained in daily life, the government has opted to regulate rather than prohibit the practice of prophecy, requiring a license for all practitioners. Item 51. A Mongolian law allows camels to inherit. This occurs if the camel is considered a family member with social importance.
The foundation for this is an ancient legal code from the 15th century, updated in the 21st century to align with contemporary legal frameworks. In traditional nomadic culture, a camel is not just transportation. It's an active participant in the family economy, often possessing a documented lineage and even a spirit guide. Some families formally register a portion of their assets, a yurt, a cart, or livestock, in a camel's name. This involves a notary, witnesses, and a shaman who attests to the animal's identity and spirit. After the owner's death, a share of the inheritance can be transferred to the camel. Its care is financed by the inheritance, with the eldest son acting as the legal administrator. One example from the Gobi region involves a camel named Jagsandor, who inherited half the herd and nominal ownership of 3 carts. The deceased's youngest grandson served as his representative, signing a declaration that he acts in the interests of the worthy animal. This practice is contentious. Some see it as anachronistic, while others view it as integral to national identity. The Ministry of Agriculture even published a guide, How to Register an Inheritance for an Animal. Therefore, in a country where the wind dictates the path, a camel can be more than a friend. It can be a legally recognized kin. Number 52. In Luxembourg City, public cemeteries have implemented a unique system, vending machines dispensing mineral water. This water is intended solely for the purpose of watering the flowers on graves, not for human consumption. The initiative is a direct result of the city's strong commitment to environmental standards and the respectful treatment of burial grounds. The project started in the early 2000s, prompted by the observation that visitors frequently left behind plastic water bottles used for watering, leading to litter and an unsightly appearance at the cemeteries. The Luxembourg municipality responded by developing a green initiative for burial site maintenance, installing free water dispensers at several cemeteries. These dispensers are operated by a foot pedal, and each tap has a built-in holder for a watering can. A nearby rental station provides metal watering cans for a €1 deposit, which is fully returned upon return. A sign above the dispenser reads, "For those who care with respect." The machines are regularly cleaned and maintained, and the water is regularly tested to ensure it meets cemetery standards. Some sections of the cemeteries have even been awarded a Green Standard mark for their participation in this initiative. Local residents often remark, "If the water here is as pure as in a pharmacy, then we're doing things right." This approach highlights Luxembourg's focus on practicality, cleanliness, and automation, even in the context of commemorating the deceased. The result is that the flowers remain vibrant and fresh for a longer period. The 53rd point. Pakistan utilizes a single, government-sanctioned scent for its mosques. Officially designated Masjid fragrance, this aroma was created through a collaboration between the Institute of Islamic Culture and the Ministry of Religious Affairs. The initiative arose in 2015 due to widespread complaints from congregants in multiple cities concerning inconsistent mosque odors. Some were pleasant, others unpleasant, smelling of mold and dust. This necessitated standardization. After extensive surveys and volunteer trials, a specific fragrance was formulated, a combination of rose oil, woody musk, and a delicate sandalwood note. The formula is alcohol-free, and all ingredients conform to Sharia law. Distribution to mosques is in the form of sprays or aromatic oils, contingent upon regional climate. The fragrance's popularity extended beyond mosques, with adoption in schools and government buildings in several provinces. Counterfeit products also appeared, with bottles marked Real Mosque Scent sold in Karachi as a home air freshener. An imam quipped in an interview, "Now you can distinguish a genuine mosque from a simple carpeted room by its scent alone." This fragrance functions as an unseen national emblem. Its presence is felt, though it remains invisible. In a nation often characterized by division rather than unity, even a scent can serve as an attempt to foster a sense of shared space. 54th fact, Finland hosts a national competition dedicated to carrying radio receivers. This event is part of the Yukon Kanto Festival, renowned for its wife-carrying competition. However, the festival also includes a secondary, equally unusual event, radio kanto, or radio carrying. The challenge involves participants carrying a heavy Soviet-era radio receiver from the 1970s on their shoulder across an obstacle course. This course includes navigating bog boots, a log, and a mud pit, with a mandatory requirement to turn on the music at the midpoint. The competition arose from a spontaneous act of humor. A local senior citizen brought an old VEF radio to the festival, jokingly suggesting it was also a worthy partner. The idea gained traction, leading to stricter rules, certified receivers, and a minimum weight requirement of 6 kilograms. Winning requires both speed and signal purity. Penalties are incurred for any receiver shutdowns or crackling. In recent years, participants have started customizing their radios, painting, adding badges, and assigning names. One participant from Turku carried a receiver bearing the inscription, "My grandfather listened to Radio Liberty. I carry it like a cross." This is not merely a sport. It's a blend of farce, irony, and a homage to an era where radio broadcasts held near sacred status. In a country where silence is almost a national characteristic, the sound of an old radio has become a vibrant expression of collective memory. Number 55 is officially taught in Tanzanian universities. This isn't a Hogwarts-style program, but academic courses studying traditional beliefs, rituals, and their social effects. At the University of Dar es Salaam, the leading university, there's a cultural anthropology and applied magic department. Students study ritual analysis, spell structure, herbalism, and symbolism. Courses include semiotics of the amulet, magic and identity, and history of spirit expulsion. The aim isn't to teach magic, but to understand how magical thinking shapes behavior, choices, and village politics. Faculty are ethnographers, psychologists, and sometimes academically recognized shamans. Professor Mwele says, "To understand Tanzania without magic is like studying London without the underground." Surveys show up to 80% of the population has consulted traditional healers. The government doesn't promote superstition, but uses research to fight fraud. University reports resulted in the closure of many fake shamanic practices. Science and magic thus coexist. One explains, the other heals, both under university auspices. A unique library exists in Portugal, the Biblioteca dos Sons, Library of Sounds, situated in an ancient monastery in the Alentejo region. Unlike traditional libraries filled with books, this one houses a collection of sounds. The creaking of floors, the ringing of a bell, the wind sighing through cypress trees, and the voice of an older woman reading a letter from the year 1943. Its creation stemmed from a project aiming to digitally preserve the vanishing sounds of rural Portugal, sounds inextricably linked to disappearing generations. Sound engineer João Vieira spearheaded this effort, visiting homes to record sounds like the click of an old switch, the cough of an elderly person, and the crackling of bread in a wood-fired oven. Initially a private archive, it evolved into a publicly accessible resource. The library now holds over 5,000 sound recordings, categorized by time of day, emotional context, and location. Visitors can use special listening equipment to immerse themselves in soundscapes such as An Evening in a Tailor's House, 1952. Some recordings include descriptive notes. For example, "This is a dog that no longer barks. Her name is Mimi." The project received funding from UNESCO and recognition for its cultural archiving of intangible heritage. In our noisy world, where silence is a luxury, Portugal has established a haven for sounds. Without books, yet filled with voices, each a memory not to be read, but to be heard. Entry number 57. South Sudan employs a unique dual currency system. Alongside the official South Sudanese pound, a robust livestock economy thrives. In this system, significant life events, marriage, divorce, apologies, and compensation for damages are all valued and transacted using livestock. While the pound is the official currency, its practical use is minimal in rural areas, where cows serve as the primary medium of exchange. The cost of a bride ranges from 20 to 50 cows. Adultery results in a 3-cow penalty, while accidental injury necessitates a payment of 7 cows. More complex transactions also occur. For instance, in Warrap State, a man compensated a victim's family with 3 cows, 1 bull, and 20 goats as a gesture of fairness and respect. The government tacitly approves of this system, even publishing a guide titled Recommended Compensation Rates, which details the customary prices for various situations. Some schools have even integrated livestock into their arithmetic lessons. A textbook example: you have 5 cows. You give 1 to your mother-in-law and 1 to your wife. How many are left? Economists, while debating the intricacies, generally agree that in the absence of banks, inflation, and trust in the government, cows offer a more reliable form of currency than paper money. They are immune to counterfeiting, provide milk, and reproduce, thus increasing the available units of account. Therefore, in the world's youngest nation, this age-old exchange system has proven remarkably resilient to reform efforts. Point 58. French Polynesia has a law prohibiting the assignment of excessively sad names to children. Name registration is controlled not only by linguistic and religious guidelines, but also by the emotional impact of the name. This situation developed in the 1980s, following several applications to register unusual names such as solitudo, loneliness, tristesse, sadness, and défaite, defeat. The intention of some parents was to commemorate personal or family tragedies. One instance involved a father who, after losing his wife in childbirth, named his daughter Souvenir, memory. The public response was negative. Children were subjected to mockery, faced difficulties at school, and frequently changed their names as teenagers. In response, the Ministry of Justice established a rule prohibiting names with consistently negative associations. The registering official evaluates both grammatical correctness and emotional effect. Disagreements result in the formation of a commission of linguists and psychologists. A known case involved the name Nuit, night, which was approved only after the parents demonstrated its intended romantic, rather than somber connotation. Currently, lists of permitted names are published annually. Consequently, in a region where names hold profound symbolic meaning, the state acts as a regulator, preventing the excessive expression of personal trauma through naming conventions. The expression of grief through a name is now subject to official regulation. Fact number 59. In Norway, a child can be assigned a state-appointed godparent. This individual is not a religious figure, but rather a social mentor, participating in a national program designed to assist children facing challenging circumstances. The Fadderbarn program, launched in 2006 as a volunteer initiative, has since received government funding. Its objective is to provide children from vulnerable backgrounds with a non-relative, non-official adult who can serve as a friend, advisor, and source of stability. Potential godparents undergo a selection process involving psychological assessments, empathy training, and child safety instruction. A match is then made between a child and a godparent. Regular interaction, including walks, household assistance, and conversations, is encouraged. Participation is voluntary but structured. One mentor's application includes the statement, "I will not be your parent. I will be you as you grow." According to the Ministry of Family and Children's Affairs, program participation is associated with reduced risks of depression, school isolation, and domestic violence. Some godparents have formed long-lasting bonds with their assigned children, lasting for decades. One was even mentioned in a child's will as the first person who taught me to laugh without fear. In a country known for its comprehensive social planning, from pensions to parks, there is a place for this unpredictable yet formally structured expression of care. A state-appointed godparent may not be a guardian angel, but they serve as a witness to a child's development, a role not always fulfilled even by family members. The 60th fact. In Egypt, acquiring bread now requires a fingerprint. This system, implemented in 2014, combats corruption and fraud within the National Bread Subsidy Program. The government subsidizes bread. One loaf costs a few piastres, but the daily limit is 5 loaves. Previously, paper coupons were used, leading to widespread counterfeiting. This resulted in bakeries claiming to have distributed bread to non-existent customers. To address this, the Ministry of Supply introduced the Tum Wayne digital platform, utilizing biometric data. Customers scan their fingerprint to purchase bread, and the system automatically deducts their daily allowance. The process is instantaneous. The baker sees the customer's name, account number, and remaining allowance. Unused allowances are forfeited. Initially, particularly in rural areas, the system faced public distrust, with technology viewed as spying. However, biometric authentication has become commonplace. Many bakeries now display signs, fingerprint only, fair for all. The system has significantly reduced theft, saving millions of dollars. Thus, in a land where pharaohs built pyramids guided by the stars, bread distribution now relies on fingerprints, proving more reliable than signatures. In the year 2018, Venezuela experienced a time when the physical weight of its paper money surpassed its actual monetary value. The hyperinflation was so severe that a kilogram of Bolivar banknotes held a greater worth than the sum of their printed denominations. This resulted in the unconventional use of the currency. People crafted items such as origami, tapestries, and even shoes from the bolivars. A skilled artisan in Maracaibo developed a line of wallets constructed from these discarded banknotes, wryly observing, "Now there's at least irony in this, a wallet made of money itself." These wallets became popular souvenirs for tourists, while local residents struggled to make even small purchases, carrying large bags of bills. The government, in response to this economic absurdity, implemented a redenomination, removing 5 zeros from the currency and issuing new banknotes. Yet within 6 months, the same predicament reappeared. Some families began using the old banknotes as an unconventional form of wallpaper, adorning the walls of cafes, apartments, and even buses. A school class famously decorated their classroom with the banknotes, writing the statement, "We are learning economics from the inside." A board game, Bolivar Monopoly, emerged, using actual million-bolivar banknotes as game pieces. Consequently, in a nation blessed with abundant oil reserves, the currency lost its primary function but found a new purpose as a craft material, an artistic medium, and a lasting symbol of a challenging era. Located in Daegu's Industrial Park in South Korea is a unique facility, a cemetery for robots. It's designed to resemble a park, complete with well-kept paths, flowers, and informational markers. However, instead of graves, it features displays of robot remains, dismantled casings, wires, and QR codes. These robots served across various industries, including manufacturing, education, and the medical field. The idea for this cemetery emerged in 2019 after an exhibition of obsolete robots at Kyungpook National University, where visitors began leaving flowers as tributes. Those who had worked with the robots explained this by saying they were part of the team, even if they didn't breathe. The Technopark administration then decided to create a permanent memorial. Each robot is commemorated with a plaque providing its name, function, and a brief history, such as Alpha 5, part sorter, served on the line from 2008 to 2020, or Sunho, chemistry teaching assistant, malfunctioned during an experiment. Students organize memorial services, lighting candles and reading essays. A professor commented, "When you work with a machine every day, its failure is almost like a colleague's illness." The development of emotionally intelligent AI raises the question of whether robots require similar rituals. The cemetery doesn't offer a conclusive answer, but it provides a form. In a country where technology is deeply integrated into society, even robots are afforded a final ceremony, albeit with a battery instead of a soul. 63rd fact: Cambodian law prohibits the sale of ancient bricks. This regulation applies to the Angkor temples and adjacent structures, many of which are gradually disintegrating due to the effects of time and weather. Before the year 2000, local inhabitants frequently collected these old bricks and repurposed them for construction, creating borders, paving pathways, and even constructing ovens. Archaeologists expressed alarm. Bricks dating back to the 13th century were disappearing in large quantities, and their restoration proved impossible given the unique composition and form of each individual brick. In response, the government implemented legislation classifying these bricks as cultural property. Their sale, export, gifting, or utilization without specific authorization is strictly forbidden. Violation of this law results in fines and the seizure of the bricks. A notable instance involved a farmer who attempted to sell a brick featuring remnants of Khmer writing to a tourist, leading to a suspended prison sentence. Currently, in the Angkor region, brick patrols are active, volunteers and inspectors who regularly monitor markets and construction sites. Ironically, the local residents often adopt a utilitarian perspective towards these bricks. It's warm, it breathes, why should it lie in the grass when it can be put in the hearth? The government is actively promoting a shift in this attitude through educational programs and school excursions, emphasizing the message, each stone is a letter in a book we haven't finished reading yet. In essence, these bricks represent not just building materials but fragments of history, actively protected through enforcement measures. 64th fact. Marriage in Iceland can take place in an unusual setting, beneath a lava field. Specifically, wedding ceremonies are officially permitted inside lava caves. The most popular venue is the Vidgilmir Cave, created 1,000 years ago after a volcanic eruption in the Borgarfjörður region. The internal temperature remains around 10 degrees Celsius. The lighting is soft, reflecting off the lava walls, creating acoustics similar to an organ recital. The cave features walkways, handrails, and a platform capable of accommodating up to 50 guests. Over 200 weddings have been held there since 2016, with officiants ranging from pastors and shamans to a costumed magician. Authorities issue permits within a week, contingent upon adherence to safety guidelines. A couple shared on a blog, "We walked through the dark tunnel and felt like we were marrying not each other, but the earth itself." Wedding packages offered by organizers include a lava rock bouquet, a geothermally heated dinner, and a souvenir stone engraved with "Married in Fire." Some ceremonies are conducted in low light, illuminated by candles, with the subtle vibrations of underground water adding to the atmosphere. Consequently, in a country where the power of nature is so readily felt, love is celebrated not under a conventional dome, but beneath the solidified lava. And yes, divorce is also possible, though it must be processed through the main office in Reykjavik. 65th fact. In Iran, regulations exist concerning the acceptable appearance of mannequins used in retail settings. A decree issued by the Ministry of Islamic Orientation in 2009 dictates the permissible visual characteristics of shop window displays featuring mannequins. These regulations stipulate that mannequins cannot exhibit clearly defined breasts, hips, or buttocks, and are also prohibited from displaying socks. Female mannequins are required to be either headless or to wear headscarves, while male mannequins must not possess accentuated anatomical features. Non-compliance results in penalties such as fines, confiscation of the offending mannequins, and temporary business closure. The ministry's reports classify these inspections as visual morality inspections. Some business owners have shown creativity in circumventing these rules, completely covering mannequins with fabric or painting eyes directly onto their clothing. Instances have occurred where mannequins were concealed behind curtains, only revealed upon customer request. A designer stated to journalists, "I feel like a sculptor who cannot show either face or body." In reaction to these prohibitions, a covert group, the Anonymous Window Dressers, has emerged, sharing images of unrestricted mannequins within private online forums. Consequently, even a plastic doll within a society where ideology permeates daily life can participate in a struggle for freedom of expression, both literally and metaphorically. Number 66. Swiss law effectively prohibits flushing toilets after 2200 hours in rented dwellings. While not explicitly stated in the penal code, this restriction is prevalent in lease agreements and falls under neighborhood harmony regulations. The core principle is a ban on household noise disruptive to other tenants between 2200 and 600 hours. The noise of a toilet flush in older buildings, numerous in Switzerland, is considered such a disturbance. Incidents of neighbors calling the police on nighttime toilet users have occurred in Geneva, Basel, and Bern. One publicized case involved a woman fined 200 francs for repeated water noise at night. Following this, silent flush toilet cisterns appeared in stores, and rental listings began including clauses like toilet use permitted according to schedule. The application of this rule varies depending on the building and its occupants. Newer apartments rarely enforce it, whereas older ones frequently do. Some landlords display notices in toilets reading, "Quietly at night, let's preserve sleep." Therefore, in a nation characterized by extensive regulation covering everything from banking to pet walking, even nighttime toilet use requires community consent. Paradoxically, this contributes to the renowned Swiss quietude, perceptible even at 3 in the morning. 67th fact. A person in India can be jailed for having a mobile phone ring too loudly during a movie. This is because of a law protecting cultural spaces passed in several states, including Maharashtra, after complaints from audience members, filmmakers, and politicians. The law demands that moviegoers silence their phones before the film starts. Breaking this rule leads to a fine of up to 5,000 rupees or detention for up to 24 hours, especially if it happens during a film in the state or religious language. One publicized case, a viewer in Mumbai played a loud game on their phone during a Hindi film. Security called the police. The person was removed and spent the night in a cell. Other incidents have occurred. For example, someone who refused to stand for the anthem before a film was fined for disrespecting the cinema space. Going to the movies in India isn't just entertainment, it's almost a ritual. Some cinemas still have an introductory prayer, and in rural areas, incense is burned before a film begins. So, in a country where smartphones are commonplace, cinemas remain places of quiet, and breaking this rule can mean losing not only respect, but also freedom. For one evening, but officially. In the Canadian context, there is a possibility to take time off specifically for maple syrup harvesting. Officially designated as seasonal leave for agricultural participation, this leave is predominantly utilized in Quebec during the peak maple syrup season, often referred to as syrup fever. This harvest is remarkably short, spanning only 3 to 4 weeks in the months of March and April, and necessitates the participation of the entire family. Therefore, the government provides paid leave, up to a maximum of 5 days, to facilitate family involvement in this crucial activity. Schools participate by implementing syrup weeks characterized by reduced class schedules and the distribution of waffles accompanied by fresh maple syrup during breaks. Rural communities organize fairs where visitors can sample the fresh sap directly from the maple trees, a warm, slightly sweet liquid with a distinctive woody fragrance. Some companies, particularly IT firms based in Montreal, have adopted the practice of offering internal syrup holidays to employees with rural origins. An engineer humorously remarked, "In our team, we have 2 languages, French and syrup." Maple syrup production is not merely a tradition, it represents a significant national industry, with Canada accounting for more than 70% of global exports. A strategic reserve, maintained by the federal government, stores thousands of barrels of syrup to mitigate the effects of potential harvest shortfalls. Hence, in this generally tranquil nation, the spring season witnesses a brief yet intense period characterized by administrative processes, leave applications, and the abundant flow of maple syrup, a substance that resembles oil in its economic significance but far surpasses it in taste. 69th fact. A goat was the unlikely defendant in a Nigerian court case. In the year 2009, in Bauchi State, a man suspected of automobile theft was apprehended by a mob. The pursuit was short. Witnesses reported a sudden transformation of the suspect into a goat at a marketplace. Police found a white goat tethered to a lamppost. Local residents identified the goat as the perpetrator. The goat was arrested and taken to the police station. Local media reported, "The accused is detained. He eats grass and gives no testimony." The incident became a national story, sparking debate between those prioritizing pragmatism and those upholding traditional beliefs. Skeptics scoffed, while believers argued such a transformation was plausible in a society where witchcraft is widely believed in. The court, unable to establish guilt, released the goat. Police later stated they acted to prevent public disorder. This case is now a case study in Nigerian law schools, illustrating how to manage situations where public pressure for justice contrasts with the accused's inability to provide a statement. The bizarre incident became a historical footnote, reflecting the interplay of supernatural beliefs and formal legal systems in Nigeria. 70. In Japan, there is a recognized profession, the apology specialist. The Japanese term is shazai daiko, translating to apology representative. These professionals are hired to apologize on behalf of a client, either in person, by telephone, or through written communication. The reasons for needing their services are varied, encompassing everything from damaged personal relationships to contractual breaches. Some businesses offer premium apologies, involving a bow of a specific depth corresponding to the severity of the offense. A 30-degree bow is considered formal, 45 degrees sincere, and 60 degrees nearly humiliating. Masters of the apology art receive specialized training in intonation, facial expressions, and the precise timing of the pause before uttering "Moshiwake mo gozaimasen," "I have nothing to say in my defense." In Tokyo, the agency Shazai Daikosha operates, charging between $40 and $400 for its services. One gentleman employed an apology specialist for his former girlfriend. She wept, recited a poem, and presented a letter decorated with cherry blossom petals. Corporate apologies are also practiced. If an employee is impolite, the company may send a repentance delegation. Japanese society, with its emphasis on outward forms, takes these apologies seriously. The focus is less on the admission of guilt and more on the correct performance of the ritual. Therefore, in a society where ritual outweighs words, even guilt can be delegated. The crucial element is the proper execution of the bow. With it, perhaps, all will be forgotten. A fact from the early 1900s. Australia officially banned jokes about rabbits. The reason was a tragic-comic ecological disaster. Rabbits, introduced by Europeans, reproduced at an alarming rate, destroying crops and native vegetation. The government's response was a massive fence, over 3,000 kilometers long, to control their spread. This triggered a widespread campaign to eradicate rabbits, trapping, shooting, and the burning of colonies. As a result, jokes about rabbits became deeply offensive. Many local councils banned cartoons, comics, and other humor deemed insensitive to those affected by the rabbit infestation. Penalties for violations included removal from fairs and exhibitions and even a fine for a vendor whose shirt displayed a rabbit with dynamite. This sensitivity persists. Queensland still requires permits for rabbit ownership. Even zoos and circuses need special permission. In a country where koalas are cherished, the rabbit represents a historical trauma, not for its charm, but for its devastating impact on the ecosystem and its near eradication of the nation's sense of humor. 72. A noteworthy fact. In Greece, it is possible to undergo an examination to attain the status of a god. This is not a religious concept, but rather a unique program within the philosophical school of Neo-Hellenists, which offers a course in theognosia, theognosy. The course involves studying ancient Greek mythology, various styles of oratory, rituals, clothing, and the cognitive patterns of the Olympian gods. The course culminates in a final examination, an oral defense of a divine concept before a panel of senior members. In the year 2022, one graduate defended the thesis Zeus as Architect of Justice, while another presented Artemis, a model of ecological ethics. Successful candidates receive a diploma with a new name. They may choose to use, for instance, Theophan, student of Hermes. While this diploma lacks official government recognition, participants assert that the course significantly improves charisma, public speaking, and self-confidence. Some individuals enroll to overcome the effects of difficult life experiences. On examination day, participants wear togas, adorn their hair with laurel, and deliver speeches from a stone circle that is a precise replica of an ancient agora. An instructor explains, "This is not theater. It is an experiment in self-discovery through myth." Consequently, in a nation where ancient ruins are a prominent feature of the urban environment, some find their identity not in the future, but in the imagery of the past. The objective is not to become Zeus, but to learn to harness inner strength without causing harm to others.
The Netherlands heeft een municipaal service dedicated to addressing the issue of loneliness. This isn't metaphorical. It's a real Amsterdam department, officially known as the Eenzaamheid Projectbureau, the Loneliness Project Office. Established in 2016, it followed research indicating that over 25% van elderly residents experience weekly loneliness and 10% experience it daily. The project began by identifying social deserts, areas with low social interaction where residents rarely greet each other, seldom visit, and frequently complain of isolation. Social first aid kits were then created, compilaties van brochures, adressen, and soms phone numbers of volunteers prepared to contact lonely individuals. Stores adopted stickers stating, "You are welcome here, just like that." Hospitals broadened their assessments to include patients' social connections in addition to their physical health. The innovative Loneliness Bank allows people to donate their time, offering companionship through walks, meals, or coffee conversations. One unique contribution was, "Elderly neighbor, I can listen, I can cook soup." This highlights the Netherlands' commitment to addressing the complex and immeasurable feeling of loneliness, opting for social interaction over medication. It operates as a municipal service with a postal address and feedback system.
In Minas Gerais, Brazil, lies Nova Chronopolis, a village founded by a philosophical community. Officially recognized as an experimental zone outside linear time, it forbids the wearing of watches and lacks any public time displays. All activities, from eating to meetings, are dictated by the community's internal rhythm. Visitors receive a pamphlet reading, "You have entered a timeless zone. Breathe not by the clock, but by yourself." Natural cues, sunrise, cicada song, moving shadows, determine the flow of life. Shops operate without schedules. Vendors open when they feel prepared. Professor Louis Dallas, a founding member, clarifies, "We don't reject time. We refuse the violence of measurement." The experiment, running since 1999, is controversial. Some see it as a utopian retreat for those escaping reality. Others see therapeutic benefits, a week's respite from schedules, allowing one to experience time's natural unfolding. Psychologists note a decrease in visitor anxiety. One visitor joked, "First you lose your sense of time, then the need for it." In a nation defined by the rhythms of samba and heavy traffic, this community has chosen to abandon imposed rhythms. The goal isn't to halt time, but to allow its natural, unscheduled flow.
75. Fact. In Czechia, a tax on televisions remains, regardless of use. The law for funding public broadcasting, passed in the 90s, persists. Every television owner, by census or new purchase, pays about 240 crowns monthly, even if the TV is unused. Non-payment leads to fines. Inspectors can demand to see the device. The digital age has fueled debate. Many argue, "I stream online, why pay for broadcast?" The state counters, public broadcasting is an institution, not just content.
Even if unwatched, it sets standards and serves a purpose. In the 2010s, replacing the tax with voluntary subscriptions was discussed in Parliament, but broadcasters protested. This is the end of television as a social obligation. So, in a nation increasingly focused on choice, the TV is a battleground, not between channels, but form and content. You may not watch, but you pay for its existence. As a symbol, an archive, a background that might again become a stage. The time system in Ethiopia is unique, diverging from international norms. It operates on what is termed Ethiopian time, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, sunrise. Thus, 7 a.m. by international standards translates to the first hour of the day in Ethiopia, 9 a.m. to the third, and midnight to the sixth hour of the night. This difference necessitates frequent explanations, notices on public transport, tourist information, and even special clocks with dual displays and stations, one showing world time, the other local. Verbal communication often includes the question, European time or ours? In rural areas, the international time system is largely unknown. Schools and courts alike provide schedules in both systems. A judge in Addis Ababa admitted, "Sometimes we get confused ourselves, but it's ours." This sun-based system might seem outdated, but it reflects a philosophy, living in accordance with natural rhythms rather than artificial time constraints. In a country with its own calendar, 7 years behind the Gregorian, where a year may have 13 months, even time becomes a part of cultural identity. Consequently, tardiness in Ethiopia is not always tardiness. It can simply be a different time. 77th fact. Singapore has had a complete ban on chewing gum in place since 1992. This ban is enforced consistently and with the precision typical of Singapore. The reason for the ban is not oral hygiene, but maintaining clean streets and reliable public transport. In the late 1980s, there was an increase in minor acts of vandalism involving chewing gum. It was stuck to subway doors, used to block elevator locks, and left on benches. A significant incident involved chewing gum jamming a photo cell in the subway, nearly causing a train accident. Then Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew responded by saying, "Freedom ends where the sticky mass begins." This led to a total ban on the import, sale, and distribution of chewing gum. Fines for violations can reach 2,000 Singapore dollars. The only exception is therapeutic chewing gum, available only with a prescription, for example, for smoking cessation. Tourists are often surprised by this ban. Even Changi Airport has a sign saying, "No gum." Chewing gum has been confiscated at the border, treated as contraband. Some people have tried to get rid of their gum before reaching the border, spitting it out at the checkpoint. Today, Singapore's streets are spotless and its subway system is highly efficient. In a city-state where even spitting is a punishable offense, chewing gum has become a symbol of rebellion. Anyone caught chewing gum will have to explain themselves to the police. Mongolia, particularly the remote Gobi Desert, where the nearest road can be dozens of kilometers away, the sight of a camel-riding postman is still a common occurrence. This unique mode of transportation remains essential due to the lack of alternative delivery methods. The Mongolian Postal Service, Mongol Shudian, officially designates camels as high-mobility vehicles. During the colder months, horses or motorcycles are used, but during the summer, only camels deliver the mail. Each postman carries a mail bag, a map, and a supply of kumis. One such postman, Mr. Byamba, has dedicated over 20 years to this route. He recounts, "When a sandstorm comes, I hide the letters under myself. Sometimes I sleep with them." These letters are far more than simple pieces of paper. They represent vital documents, notifications, and often the only connection to family for many. In certain villages, residents eagerly await the postman's arrival, spotting the telltale dust trail an hour before his approach. Mail delivery on some routes occurs twice a month. In the 2020s, suggestions were made to replace camels with drones, but this was met with resistance from the local population. A camel not only delivers the mail, but also brings the scent of the steppe, leaves a visible track, and provides a sense of personal connection.
Thus, in a country where nomadic traditions remain strong, even mail delivery reflects this nomadic spirit, a slow journey across the sand marked by the sound of hooves. And the mail arrives in places where internet access is absent, but anticipation remains.
Fact number 79. A ban on death exists in some Polish villages. This is not a joke, but a legal anomaly resulting from a tragic circumstance: the lack of a burial ground. In the village of Mieszkowo in the Podkarpackie Voivodeship, the local cemetery was closed several years ago due to health and safety regulations. The water table was too high. Until a new cemetery is built, interments are forbidden. Construction, however, has been delayed and people have continued to die. The local council therefore issued a resolution: "We request that you refrain from dying until the infrastructure works are completed." The wording is absurd, yet it legally functions as a temporary measure. Similar situations have arisen in other villages. For example, in Jakstrębie, where the only funeral director left, leaving the area without funeral services. They released a statement: "Please notify us in advance if you intend to die. We will arrange transport." These stories were widely reported in the media, leading to many memes, but the underlying issue remains: infrastructure can fail to keep pace with biological processes. In response to criticism, an official commented, "We did not prohibit death. We merely pointed out that death also requires planning." Thus, in 21st century Europe, death remains unpredictable. However, if you live in a small Polish village, it may also be illegal, temporarily, until the work is finished. The 80th fact. A disused gold mine near Johannesburg, South Africa, has undergone a remarkable transformation. Initially abandoned in the early 2000s, it attracted illegal miners, then stalactite researchers, and finally agricultural experts. In 2018, the Golden Greens Company converted a section of the mine into a vertical hydroponic farm. This innovative approach utilizes artificial lighting and a controlled environment to produce lettuce, spinach, and arugula. The stable temperature and closed-loop water system ensure consistent yields regardless of external weather conditions. A mine worker stated, "We don't dig for gold, we dig for freshness." The produce is sold to Johannesburg restaurants under the label "Grown Below Ground." The project's economic viability is evident in its low costs, pest-free environment, and elimination of soil dependency. The government has endorsed the initiative as a prime example of sustainable development. Future expansion plans include a mushroom farm and an educational center. The site, once a symbol of resource depletion, has been reborn as a productive and sustainable agricultural facility. The mine, once filled with dust, now thrives with greenery. Number 81. Liechtenstein is available for rent. The whole country. A formal agreement, effective since 2010, permits individuals and businesses to lease Liechtenstein completely for durations ranging from a single day to an extended period. This venture stemmed from a partnership between the Liechtenstein government and the American entertainment firm Rent a Nation. The daily rental price commences at $700,000. This price encompasses a symbolic key to the nation, the privilege of displaying custom insignia, the right to rename streets, and the possibility of holding a private ceremony within the Parliament building. During the rental, signage is altered, a special guest passport is issued, and a minister serves as an honorary guide. A rap group initially sought to rent the country for a private album release event. However, the transaction failed due to conflicting demands regarding anonymity. The group desired complete anonymity, while Liechtenstein insisted on maintaining its visa regulations. Later, the country was rented for corporate training exercises. Employees stayed in different villages, learned traditional crafts, and conducted simulated negotiations in the alpine pastures. The royal family supports this initiative. As long as we have a flag, we can share it. Therefore, in Europe, where strict regulations prevail, a small nation has found a unique way to generate income by presenting itself as a world unto itself. And sometimes, that's precisely what it becomes.
Number 82. A unique occupation exists in Bangladesh, the train pusher. This role originated in Dhaka, the capital city, as a direct response to the extreme overcrowding on suburban trains, a situation beyond the capabilities of standard train staff. The primary duty of a train pusher is to physically force passengers onto the trains before departure and to prevent them from falling. This practice began in the 1990s, a period when rail travel became the dominant form of transportation for many migrants and workers. During peak commuting times, mornings and evenings, the train platform transforms into a dense, moving mass. Hundreds of people, luggage, children, and food supplies. The train has no time to delay. This led to the emergence of Dhaka Dars, individuals wearing bright vests, compensated either by the railway or the passengers themselves. They run alongside the train, shouting, "Move to the left," using their hands and sometimes their feet to push passengers aboard. A train pusher described his work. The main thing is not to cause pain, but also not to let anyone be left behind. The job is inherently dangerous. Injuries and even deaths have been reported. However, the demand for train pushers remains consistently high. These workers maintain close coordination with the train driver. A signal from the driver alerts them to clear the tracks before the train departs. Tourists often view this as an unusual sight, while locals regard these individuals as engines of human determination. In a nation with one of the world's highest population densities, even the simple act of boarding a train requires a specialized profession. It demands physical strength, precision, and an understanding that the act of pushing is not violence, but rather a necessary form of assistance.
In Finland, a baby receives a box instead of a traditional cot. Since the year 1938, the government has given every expectant mother a so-called maternity package, äitiyspakkaus. This is a large cardboard box containing baby clothes, nappies, thermometers, toys, creams, and a small mattress. Importantly, the box itself is designed to serve as the baby's first bed. It has a soft base, sides, and ventilation holes. Mothers in rural areas, far from hospitals, started using the box for their newborns because it is convenient, safe, and easily transportable. This program halved infant mortality rates. To receive the package, mothers simply need to attend initial checkups and register for antenatal care, thus encouraging early diagnosis and health care. The kit contains clothing suitable for all seasons in neutral colors. It is sometimes referred to as a room in a box. A tradition has developed of photographing babies in the box on their first day of life. In the 2010s, this box became an export phenomenon, copied in Great Britain, Canada, and India. But in Finland, it is not merely a box. It is a symbol of the state's immediate care. In a country where silence is prized, care is shown not through words, but through the cardboard box where the future sleeps.
Number 84. In Turkmenistan, the color black is prohibited. The year 2018 saw the introduction of an unacknowledged yet pervasive ban on black vehicles, subsequently extending to black attire. Police routinely stopped vehicles of an undesirable color, mandating repainting. Owners of black Toyotas and Mercedes incurred expenses in the thousands of dollars to repaint their vehicles white or silver. Black items were confiscated at the entrances to government buildings and removed from market displays. The origin of this prohibition traces back to a superstition, allegedly originating from the president himself, the belief that black is unlucky. Despite the lack of official confirmation, the regulations proliferated quickly. Hairdressers discontinued black hair coloring services, and designers ceased producing dark clothing. An Ashgabat resident complained to journalists, "I have a black car, a black suit, and a black cat. Now I am an outlaw." Some circumvented the ban by wearing dark blue, nearly black clothing, operating at the limits of acceptability.
Therefore, in a country where a personality cult intertwines with decorative aesthetics, color has evolved beyond mere form into an ideological component. Black, a fashion classic, unexpectedly became a symbol of dissent, or at least a subject of suspicion. Number 85. The legal ownership of mountains is a reality in Norway. Such ownership is documented with a cadastral number and is heritable. This is a literal fact. Norway's system means almost all mountains, forests, and fjords are privately or communally held. Sometimes a single individual or family owns an entire mountain peak. Storhovden Mountain in Trøndelag County is one example. The Bakken family has owned it since the late 19th century. Locals can organize climbs for a small fee, but the owner can refuse access. In 2015, a tourist complained about being barred from a slope with rare plants. The owner's reply was simple: "It's our grass." In another instance, an owner rented part of a slope for a Viking film, earning 100,000 kroner. The state, however, reserves the right of public access if the mountain is considered a natural heritage site. A separate agreement is then negotiated. Websites even sell mountain plots, using phrases such as, "plot with a panorama, virginity guaranteed." Thus, in a nation that values nature, it's also treated as a marketable commodity. The phrase, "this is my mountain" in Norway has both poetic and legal significance. Number 86. A law in Argentina allows grandmothers to receive a pension for raising their grandchildren. This law was passed in the early 2000s after it became apparent that a large number of children were being raised by their grandparents because of parental emigration, poverty, or death. The previous pension system did not take this into account. Pensions were calculated based only on the parent's work history. As a result, the parliament passed the law supporting mediated motherhood. Grandmothers officially caring for their grandchildren are entitled to a pension supplement, or, if they lack work history, a social pension for upbringing. To qualify, they need to provide documentation such as school reports, medical records, and proof of guardianship. A noteworthy provision is that time spent at parent-teacher meetings counts as a contribution to upbringing. Some grandmothers have even used children's drawings and notebooks as proof. Respect points, consultation centers for elderly caregivers, have opened in the provinces. A government official stated, "If the state recognizes work, it must also recognize care." In Argentina, where tango teaches the art of leading and supporting, grandmothers not only care for their grandchildren, but also support entire families. Their caregiving is now officially recognized as a profession. Fact number 87. In the Kingdom of Bhutan, economic prosperity is measured not by financial indicators, but by the happiness of its population. Since the year 1972, the Gross National Happiness (GNH) has been utilized. This was introduced as a replacement for the conventional gross domestic product. King Jigme Sinye Wangchuk asserted that well-being is not determined by the amount of goods produced. He suggested 4 primary criteria: sustainable development, environmental protection, preservation of culture, and effective governance. The government periodically conducts large-scale surveys assessing factors such as frequency of positive emotions, availability of time for relaxation and contemplation, and quality of social relationships. These surveys incorporate a wide range of variables, from sleep quality to self-perception. Policy decisions are based on the data obtained. For example, if a region exhibits a declining happiness index, psychologists are dispatched, festivals are organized, and housing repairs are undertaken. In schools, children are taught gratitude alongside mathematics. One classroom begins each day with the statement, "Thank you that I am alive." Critics dismiss the system as naive and a concealment of poverty, but the Bhutanese respond, "We are not opposed to growth. We favor growth accompanied by happiness." Therefore, in a country where television arrived only in 1999, the measurement of happiness has become a governmental priority. While not always perfectly successful, it undoubtedly contributes to a better quality of life. In Israel, there's one of the world's most rigorous noise control regulations. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., prohibited sounds include not just loud music and construction, but also furniture-related noises. The Sheket Leila, night quiet, imposes fines for sounds exceeding 40 decibels in apartment buildings. This means no moving chairs without protective pads, no slamming doors, and no noisy dishwashing. New developments often include quiet agreements in leases, extending restrictions to nighttime laundry use. One case saw neighbors suing a young couple over loud footsteps on a parquet floor. The judge ordered either carpeting or compensation. The Sheket Basachel, quiet with reason movement arose in response, advocating for more lenient nighttime noise tolerance, discouraging reports for things like crying babies or dropped toys. Despite this, police still receive numerous calls. Dozens are reported nightly in larger cities. Therefore, in a country with deafening daytime city noise, nighttime is strictly regulated. In Israel, silence, if golden, comes with a price. Number 89. North Korea officially recognizes 87 approved hairstyles. Citizens are limited to choosing from this government-approved catalog of haircuts. The catalog is divided by gender, 28 styles for men and 59 for women. Every hair salon displays this catalog, and stylists are required to adhere to it. Any deviation is considered a violation of social norms. Married women must have short hair. Women under 25 may wear braids or curls, but not past their shoulder blades. Men are restricted to a side part, a crew cut, or a military-style cut, no longer than 5 centimeters. In 2015, Pyongyang initiated a campaign for a patriotic haircut, similar to Kim Jong-un's style. Salons displayed posters reading, "Get a haircut with respect for the motherland." Enforcement varies, particularly outside the capital. However, in Pyongyang and during major events, the principle is one form, one nation. Thus, in a nation where individuality is viewed with suspicion, even hair is subject to state control. If a haircut reflects one's inner self, then in North Korea, that self is short, neat, and strictly regulated. The 90th fact. A naming committee continues to exist in Iceland. This official governmental organization decides if a child may be given the name selected by its parents. Its founding in 1991 aimed to protect the Icelandic language from external influences and uphold the traditional naming system, where surnames originate from the father's name. Names failing to adhere to Icelandic grammar and phonetics are subject to rejection. A prominent case emerged in 2013. A girl named Blair, after a character in an American series, lacked official recognition. Documents simply read "girl." The parents' legal challenge was unsuccessful. The committee maintains that names must be easily inflected, respect linguistic tradition, and pose no pronunciation difficulties. By the 2020s, the approved list contained roughly 1,800 masculine and 1,900 feminine names. Any new name requires application, including an explanation of its meaning and origin. Interesting cases have occurred. Lucifer was rejected, whereas Zlatan was accepted due to its harmonious sound. In a nation where phone books are ordered by given name, a name transcends mere personal choice. It's a cultural component. Therefore, those seeking to stand out should first consult the language and then the committee. Fact 91. In Venezuela, in the run-up to elections, the internet is switched off. The official explanation is that this is to prevent the spread of misinformation and to maintain information hygiene. Over the past decade, on election days, there have been widespread outages affecting internet access. Social media platforms are inaccessible, messaging services are unavailable, and websites displaying election results are offline. NetBlocks, an organization that monitors internet freedom, recorded that on the day of the presidential election in 2018, access to major online resources was restricted for 80% of the country's internet service providers. The government asserts that this is a measure to combat foreign interference. The opposition argues that it is a suppression of the truth. In response, users have devised alternative methods of accessing the internet. VPN addresses are shared through messaging apps. Schools teach high school students how to bypass internet censorship, and illegal battery-powered Wi-Fi hotspots operate in rural areas. One user commented wryly, "Our internet is like our elections. It's supposed to be there, but it doesn't work." Therefore, in a country with abundant oil resources but where goods are rationed, even the internet has become a tool of political control. It is no longer simply a means of communication, but a means of control. And on such days, even a vintage radio feels like a symbol of freedom. 90-second fact: Tajikistan has officially outlawed lavish weddings. Since 2007, the law on the regulation of customs and traditions has been in force, strictly limiting guest numbers, the amount of food, the number of cars in the wedding cortege, and the event's length. The maximum allowed is 150 guests, one hot dish, one musical performance, and 3 cars. The reason is widespread poverty. Families would host extremely expensive weddings, accumulating substantial debt, selling livestock and property to avoid losing face. The law was enacted after several tragic incidents. In one case, the groom's father died from a heart attack the day after the wedding because of his debts. Enforcement is strict. Inspectors monitor compliance, photographing food, noting car registration numbers, and counting portions. Violators receive fines and sometimes mandatory explanatory conversations at the local community center, Mahala. This has resulted in the rise of clandestine weddings. Guests are invited in a second wave. Food is supposedly prepared for neighbors, but secretly brought to the venue. Some families share recipes for invisible plav discreetly. Therefore, in a country where tradition is almost a religion, the government is attempting to control it. The goal is to prioritize happiness not through extravagance, but through peace, or at least a balance between love and the quantity of food. 93rd fact: in Iran, it is against the rules to smile in passport photographs. The stated reason is simple. Biometric data must be exact, the facial expression neutral, the mouth closed, and devoid of any emotion. However, underlying this technical regulation is a significant cultural and political context. In 2011, the authorities released a statement. The face must convey the seriousness of a citizen of the Islamic Republic. This applies not only to passports, but also to student identification, driver's licenses, and even entry permits to government facilities. Photo studios prominently display signs, "Please remain neutral." Photographers often quip, "A smile will result in a fine for us." A social media trend emerged showcasing before and after photographs illustrating the effect of Iranian processing. The difference is striking, comparable to the contrast between a casual tea invitation and a formal police interrogation. In response to public criticism, an official commented, "A serious expression does not denote sadness, but rather respect for the process." Therefore, in a country where street style often clashes with official regulations, even a photograph becomes a site of conflict between the individual and the image dictated by the system. The absence of a smile in a passport photo does not indicate sadness. It is simply a mandated requirement. 94th fact: there exists a city in Canada where death is prohibited. This is Longyearbyen, the administrative center of the Svalbard archipelago, located in the Arctic region and officially belonging to Norway, although it has historical ties to Canada in terms of industrial development. Local authorities have implemented a ban on burials due to the presence of permafrost. Bodies do not decompose. Instead, they remain frozen for extended periods. Following several influenza epidemics in the early 20th century, it was discovered that active viruses persisted within these frozen remains. As a result, a unique policy was enacted. The deceased are transported to the mainland. Individuals suffering from fatal illnesses are evacuated thousands of kilometers. Locals humorously remark, "Living here is acceptable, dying, not here." Longyearbyen is without a maternity hospital, general hospital, or cemetery. These facilities are situated outside the city. Tourists initially express disbelief. A city without death? A sign at the city's entrance states, "Take care of your health. It's the only thing you'll leave here."
Thus, in a world where death is the ultimate conclusion, this polar city has opted to postpone it, not from a philosophical perspective, but a logistical one. This frozen paradox is the permafrost, a place where death finds no resting place.
95th fact. India has a profession, the professional mourner. They are called Rudali, meaning weeping woman. An old tradition, especially in rural Rajasthan and Bihar, involves hiring women to mourn the dead. This isn't simple crying. It's a theatrical performance requiring skill in voice, intonation, text, and gesture. It's believed that loud wailing helps the soul's journey to the next world. Also, upper caste men cannot openly show emotion, so grief is delegated. The Rudali goes to the deceased's home, learns their life story, and creates a lament, a poem, song, or rhythmic chant. The work is challenging. A balance between sincerity and performance is crucial. Family disputes have arisen. She cried louder at the neighbor's funeral. In 1993, Kalpana Lajmi directed the film Rudali, sparking discussion about the ethics of commissioned grief versus cultural obligation. The profession is nearly gone, but in some regions it's still passed down through women. So, in a country where emotion is sacred, grief is also a craft. Someone must perform it so others can remain silent. 96th fact. Genoa, an Italian city, observes a unique practice, seeking pardon for wasted bread. This age-old custom, upheld by the Bakers Guild, involves the presentation of a symbolic loaf to St. Lawrence Square each spring. This act serves as a collective apology for substandard or discarded bread from the preceding year. The ceremony is termed Pane del Perdono, translating to bread of forgiveness. Its origins are in the 14th century, a period marked by fluctuating food security, where bread held not only nutritional but also sacred significance. The discarding of a stale loaf by a merchant was followed by a drought, interpreted as a divine warning. Since then, the guild annually bakes a large round loaf, carrying it to church where a priest offers the prayer, "Let us forgive those who neglected the blessing." Subsequently, the bread is shared with the impoverished. The event has transformed into a festival, complete with flags, the fragrant scents of rosemary and cinnamon, and baking competitions. Yet, the fundamental message endures. Bread commands respect. Even in the 21st century, even within the context of supermarkets. In a country where gastronomy is an art, a single piece of bread can represent a prayer, or a plea for forgiveness, or both. 97th fact. A formal body odor test exists in Japan. Called Nioi Kensa, meaning olfactory inspection, it's used in some Japanese companies, especially during summer. This reflects Japanese corporate culture's emphasis on personal hygiene as a key aspect of professionalism. Major companies like Kao Corporation and Shiseido employ certified olfactory inspectors. These inspectors assess the smell of sweat, breath, hair, and clothing. While participation is optional, refusal can be seen negatively, suggesting a lack of teamwork skills. Before the test, employees are asked to avoid strong-smelling food, perfume, and smoking. A short interview follows where the inspector observes the employee from different angles and takes notes. The assessment is on a scale from 0 to 10. Scores above 5 are considered undesirable. Those exceeding the limit receive recommendations, using deodorant, changing clothes, or seeing a doctor. Some companies even have smell days, reminders about hygiene posted throughout the office. Olfactory etiquette courses teach how to apologize for body odor. So, in a culture that avoids direct confrontation, even body odor is formally addressed. Career progression, therefore, often depends on maintaining good hygiene. 98. The Czech Republic offers a unique employee benefit, a recovery holiday. Officially designated as a health restoration holiday, this leave is recognized by several companies, primarily in creative sectors, as an integral part of their workplace culture. This practice emerged in Prague during the early 2000s and 10s, when design and IT startups established an informal policy. If an employee attended a company function and is unable to work the next morning, remaining at home is preferred over attending work with bloodshot eyes. A managing director explained the rationale. We prioritize efficiency, not mere presence. Your mind needs to be functioning, not suffering. Over time, this type of leave became a formal part of employment contracts, allowing for up to 3 days annually without requiring an explanation. The only stipulation is notification by 10 in the morning. Some companies distributed memos encouraging employees. If you feel unwell, stay home, recover and return with renewed ideas. While instances of misuse have occurred, one employee utilized this leave after a virtual company gathering. The system has largely proven effective. Psychologists view this not as endorsing excessive alcohol consumption, but as acknowledging a practical reality. This is particularly relevant in a country where beer consumption is comparable to coffee consumption. Consequently, in a society valuing honesty over strict formality, even vulnerability can be institutionalized. The crucial aspect is preventing this from becoming the standard practice. The goal is to transform it into a day focused on making sound, rational decisions. 99th fact. In Estonia, online voting is a reality. It is the world's first country to implement nationwide electronic voting, starting in the year 2005. This innovation originated with the ID card, a personal digital signature possessed by almost every citizen. This digital ID enables access to electronic prescriptions, online tax payments, digital contract signing, and, crucially, online voting. The online voting system activates several days before the official election day. Users log in using their ID card, view the electronic ballot, and cast their vote. Multiple votes are permitted, with only the final vote being counted. Robust security measures, including encryption and double identity verification, are in place. No significant security compromises have been reported. Voter turnout has increased by 15%. Older citizens receive training on tablet use, while younger voters participate from overseas. A student in London noted, "I vote on the bus on my way to a lecture." Some critics express concern about the loss of traditional solemnity. However, the Estonian response is, the solemnity is in freedom, not in a booth. Therefore, in a nation where even forests benefit from Wi-Fi connectivity, democracy itself has been digitized. The voter's voice is heard, transmitted via cable, with undiminished impact. The keeping of just one guinea pig is illegal in Switzerland. A law implemented in 2008 categorizes these animals as a social species. Therefore, keeping a single guinea pig is considered animal abuse. A minimum of 2 is required. This isn't a mere formality. Owners are required to present documentation verifying the purchase of a second animal. In the event of one guinea pig's death, a replacement must be found within a month. A guinea pig rental service operates in the country to temporarily address the issue of loneliness for a surviving animal. Veterinarians provide certificates confirming the impossibility of keeping a guinea pig alone. This legislation is part of a wider animal rights reform, which includes prohibiting the boiling of lobsters, mandating humane dog walking, and requiring the training of fish in proper aquarium orientation. The Swiss explained this as a demonstration of respect, not eccentricity. A representative once remarked, "If you take a life, be its society." Therefore, even in a nation known for its precise timekeeping, a rodent is not permitted to be lonely. One hamster is acceptable, but a single guinea pig is a legal issue.